You're moving in. What's your name?
It all began as a dream.
Welcome to the first episode of The World According to Zippy.
I could listen to him on the radio? That's crazy.
She decided she was too good for Disney, and I was like, nah, this show sucks now, and she's a bad person.
And now it's become a phenomenon.
It ain't about the game, it's about the game. You feel me, Max?
That's no,
it ain't about the game, it's about the game.
The Winnipeg Whiteout. That's all I need to say.
Ain't no party like a Zippy party. That needs to go on a t-shirt.
I'm on the fence of whether this is mocking or whether this is complimenting.
Definitely on the fence.
Okay, you're
The answer is definitely somewhere on the fence.
But it's true what they say. All good things must come to an end.
Even though it's way past my bedtime, I'm going out and I'm partying and I'm getting drunk.
She wins no matter what. Taylor
crazy.
Swift is always right.
God, you're so good at interviewing, Max. Someone give him an award.
But who says we can't enjoy every single moment one more time?
The art is a nightmare for them.
Landon, can I ask you a question?
Yeah?
When's the last time you watched baseball?
I didn't care if you'd done all this stuff in high school. Like, I was going to outwork you.
You feel me? If I go off the script, like if I go off what I read.
So grab your popcorn and take a seat on the couch. The World According to Zippy, Season 5 starts now.
Oh, it is so good to be back for one final time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition, episode 63, season 5, episode 13, and more importantly, the series finale of The World According to Zippy. My name is Max Zepeda, coming to you from a brand new location for the first time in the history of The World According to Zippy, right here from the Memorial Union in Tempe, at the Blaze Radio studios shared by the ASU Student Media Agency. It is almost hard to believe that we've come to this day. It's a day that I never really looked forward to. It's a day I was lingering about, but at the same time, I'm very glad that we've now reached a point to where I kind of accepted it. But at the same time, this is going to be a very different show, unlike anything that you've ever seen. We're obviously not in the Bill Austin Radio studio. We're obviously not being recorded live. This is going to be a very special dedication episode for all of you who listen to this show every single day. Today, literally this morning, as much of the world did, I got my Spotify Wrapped, just like everyone else did. Our show grew in audience engagement this year alone by nearly 450%, which is unbelievable. We had nearly 40 people basically have us as their number one show, on their number one podcast on Spotify, which is unbelievable. But we're not only just on Spotify, we're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and we're also, for the second or third time in the history of the show, having this being broadcasted video, which is brand new for us. The first time we've done this since, of course, the Super Bowl show that we did last February in New Orleans. But it's only fair, though, it's only fair doing that as we kind of ramp ourselves into this finale and ramp up and talk about all the crazy things that have happened this year. We're going to have so many different guests over the course of the night, whether it's people here in person, whether it's people calling in. It's going to be crazy. We have no idea what's going to be happening over the next 2.5 hours, but we're going to have a whole lot of fun doing it. At the same time, I'm very glad and very thankful that at least the first guest who's at least come here for the series finale of The World According to Zippy, he might be here more than once, we'll see, is someone who came, who was originally on for probably one of my more interesting episodes that we did in season 3 of the show, back in season 3, episode 8, someone who I genuinely admire and I think is probably one of the most intelligent, not only journalists, but more importantly, more intelligent people that I know, because of his ability to not only be able to achieve and seize every single opportunity that he's had in front of him, but at the same time be able to try to give back and be able to try to help others try to improve in their skill set as well, not only as journalists, but just almost as people as well. And that is my great friend, Adam Beadle. Adam, welcome back to The World According to Zippy. This is your second time back in nearly a year. I know you're going to be the first of many to hear this, and I'm going to obviously try to save the emotions till the end, but this is a pretty exciting night.
Yeah, I'm happy I got to be the first person here. It's pretty cool, and I'm just happy for you and the opportunity you have to do this. And it's been so cool to see all the different people you've had on over the years and see it grow and just see kind of the journey it's come into. So what a blessing from God that He's given you this and being able to be in the situation you're at. And I'm excited to watch this back throughout the night and be like, man, what the heck happened?
I feel like
I hope maybe if I come back later tonight and I'm like, what is going on right now? I just hope I'm shocked. But nonetheless, super glad to be here and super happy for you and that you're capping this off in a big way. It's awesome.
Well, I'm at least trying to, and I know that when you came on originally, I specifically expressed to you, if anyone hasn't gone to listen to Adam's episode, please do so after you see the series finale. We really
if you want
appreciate it. Yes, please do. Make sure you go listen to that episode because one of the things that I pointed out about Adam that I really appreciated was how I didn't know you entirely, really, before I got into Cronkite. But at the same time, you were all over social media with all the incredible work you were doing covering Arizona high school football. And it was almost as if that when you announced you were going to Cronkite, it was this massive ordeal that people were excited about. And at the same time, you've been here for nearly a year and a half, and I still don't think a lot of people at this school really know who you are, which I think is so fascinating.
Which might be partly my fault, because I don't go around and explore. I tell people all the time, I'm like, man, should I have maybe gotten a little bit more involved last year, just kicking in? Probably. Do I know a whole lot of people? Not really, but, it's part of the journey.
But at the same time, like, I feel like with all the stuff that you do, and for at least the people who at least know you and the work that you do, it almost as if you don't need to have that formal introduction. If you just have your name out there on the internet, if you see Adam's name on social media, people know what you do for a living. People know what your free time, what do you do in your free time outside of school? You are constantly working when it comes to at least August to November, basically, and especially right now with all the high school championships going on and that sort of thing. Like this is kind of the apex of basically your yearly grind, basically.
Oh yeah, after this, it's about a month of just doing nothing. I'll tell you what, man. I love this. I love high school football. I love football season, but I'm so excited to sit in my bed and do absolutely nothing for the next month coming up. So no, it's been awesome, and I think the part with that is it's not I think in that sort of way, I just hope that can kind of be an influence to people, that you can go and really do anything you set your mind to. I've always been big on that. I've always one of the biggest things I've learned was just putting your foot in the door. It's about the simplest thing you can do to break into this industry besides making connections, and I feel like I really taken on the role of trying to do two of those things. So it's really just trying to climb the ladder as fast as possible, and it hasn't always been the easiest process. It's brought a lot of ups and downs. It's brought me to a lot of different places that I would not expect it to be. It's made me sit in front talking to people that I never thought I'd be sitting in front talking to.
Yeah.
Be in areas I never thought I would be in. Be in some areas I don't think I'll ever see myself in again, just because it wasn't for me. So it's been a great journey, and I'm very thankful and appreciative to everybody who's helped me get to that point and where I'm at today in the situation I'm in.
And at the same time, I think, as someone who's, been grateful to know you, I think one of the cool things about kind of our journey covering Arizona State football last year and having kind of the bonding moment where we were both in Dallas, we were both in Atlanta, we kind of had the unique experience of, and my girlfriend who's here in the back with us is very familiar with this, who, by the way, is the record holder for the most appearances in the history of the world according to Zippy.
That's
Six appearances in the history of the show. If she sits down here at some point, it will be 7, so we'll have to see if that potentially happens in the next 3 hours, but we'll see. But more importantly, I just at least remember, at least in the origins of getting to know you and your story and your ability to cover an event in that environment. I think we were both, not only maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the occasion, but at the same time, I think we both understood that, like, obviously this was a big stage. Obviously, a lot of our work during that week is going to be seen by a lot of people. And we really didn't, I think, really overwhelm ourselves by it, even with each passing week being like, okay, more viewers, more likes, more attention, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think, the video that I ended up creating from that is probably one of my most viewed videos I've created from a sports perspective. It was super cool, and one of my favorite shots, not only from that game, but that I've ever gotten, was post-game when Kenny just got tumbled in Gatorade after. And I may or may not have gotten a little bit of Gatorade on my camera, which I then had to go and clean off later. But that is as a journalist, it's a super cool moment because you've been around a team a whole year that you've been able to see kind of more than others really work their tail off, and so to see that team reap success and be able to kind of in a way share that moment with them was super cool to be in that environment. Jerry's World is something different, man.
Yeah.
I've been to a game in Jerry's World before. ASU played Notre Dame back in 2013, and I went for that game, but being on the field and in or out of the stadium was a whole different experience, and you really realize how gigantic that place is. So that was my biggest takeaway. It was just so cool to be in that
I distinctly remember how, and this happened again in Ames recently, but I specifically that morning, I think we had gotten to the stadium at like 7 or 8 a.m.
It was an early morning.
It was an early morning because it was an early morning because it was an 11 a.m. kick local. But at the same time, like it was cold, it was wet, it was freezing outside. When we had gotten inside, I think both of us, we went on the field at the same time. We both were just kind of overwhelmed with like, whoa, this is like we've been in like some road environments. I'd made the Cincinnati trip that year. I'd made the Texas Tech trip that year. But then when you walk inside that place and it's fully enclosed, it's 72 degrees, and there's this massive television that's the size of a country. It's almost overwhelming. And I think over time, through the rest of the game, I think regardless of what the score was on the scoreboard and all that kind of stuff, like I think we were both just kind of very, very grateful by the end of it that especially for me because like after that game, like people were going out and watching the other games.
There was a distinct moment in the fourth quarter. I remember sitting next to you, and this was by the time ASU had already won the game. Like the game was over. Yeah, Iowa State was coming back. And I was like, man, there's just no point in filming the rest of this game. So I remember sitting next to you. I just put my camera down, and I'm just watching the game. Because I'm like, this is incredible. Yeah. Like, to be in the position that we were watching what was going on was insane.
And to think that, last year, there was a lot of criticism online and on social media about how the attendance for the game wasn't that great because Arizona State obviously had to travel to the game, and so did Iowa State. And both teams were kind of finagled into the game last minute, so no one really knew what the situation was. This year is obviously completely different because BYU and Texas Tech have basically prepared for this game for weeks. And now this game is supposedly going to be the first sold-out Big 12 championship game ever, which I think is kind of wild considering that prior to 2021, I think at some point, and also in 2023, Texas or Oklahoma played in the Big 12 championship game every single year. Mm-hmm. So you would think that in a stadium like that, whether it was in the Cotton Bowl or whether at AT&T, that the fan base would just always show up year in and year out because of those two teams and how close they were to the stadium. But, I mean, I'm just kind of surprised that with these kind of two teams and how they're both first shot at a legit conference title, because reminder, BYU was an independent before they even had an opportunity to be in a conference like this. So the fact that they're not only embracing the opportunity but realizing that this is, like last year, a win-in playoff game. Like it's actually kind of exciting. I'm actually kind of excited to see how it transpires on television on Saturday.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm not going to get to watch a whole lot of it because we got the high school football state championships on Friday and Saturday. Mm-hmm. But I'll keep my eye on that one, and I'm excited for a couple of the conference championships this week, and that should be a lot of fun. I think the Big Ten is going to be awesome.
The Big Ten is going to be awesome. Number 1 and number 2, obviously, with Indiana and Ohio State. A lot of people talk about how conference championship games, whether they matter, whether they don't matter, especially when it's due teams, whether they're in the top 5 and something like that in the competition. But I think for both of us, knowing that we've both been to a conference championship game where it was, at the time, 16 versus 15, I think the position that the ACC is in is very similar, at least in some ways, to kind of where the Big 12 is in.
I mean, look at the Duke team, 7-5, found their way in the ACC championship. I mean, how fraudulent is that?
Here's the thing, though. Is that more of a problem with just ACC management? Is that really a problem with all the people in Charlotte who make all the rules?
I think it's just because the ACC's mid, man. That's really what it is. Let's be honest. Let's tell the truth. The ACC's mid.
But I understand, and I fully validate the point. But at the same time, I think the way that Miami's played over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I understand, the loss to SMU, and SMU's not a bad football team. SMU is a quality football team. And, Louisville obviously had that, big fall off kind of in the month of November, losing to, I think, Clemson as well, and I think they lost to Florida State. But the idea that Miami hasn't played well, at least in recent weeks, I know a lot of, people who watch who are at least fervent of Miami and fervent that they should be in the playoff are understanding that, they should just switch the rules to where the commissioner just, vetoes this and says, Miami's going to play Virginia, winners into the playoff.
I don't feel bad for Miami in any way, shape, or form. They left the state maybe, 4 times this year?
Yeah.
That's the way their schedule works?
Yeah, that's fair.
And so when you're going to, that's call them babies, but when you're just going to, sit at home all year and not have the exact success that you wanted to have, and I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah.
I really don't. So.
I understand that point, but I do think the win against Notre Dame in Week 1 was one of the 5 best wins of the season.
Oh, that was one of the best college football games of the year.
Yeah.
I remember watching that game Week 1 and it was like, oh, this season's going to be fun.
Yeah, it is with the one-handed catch that Xavier made.
Man, that was insane. I remember sitting at a Buffalo Wild Wings watching that happen.
It's like fond memories just all coming back to you for sure. I do want to mention this. I'm going to probably mention this at least to everyone who has at least come in here because I know obviously it's fairly topical with all of the conversation going on today. Spotify Rap did come out today, as I mentioned off the top of the broadcast. I mentioned all the stats involving the world according to Zippy today. Are you on Spotify? Do you have a Spotify Rap?
Big Apple Music guy.
Okay, so they have their own program as well.
Yeah.
So what were like the big results that came in for you? Do you know on the top of your head?
Let me look. So
are you the one who likes to promote that stuff?
I pay attention to it. Every single month I had I don't know. my top artists for each month, and it's not very different at all. I had January through July was Elevation Worship. August through October was Brandon Lake, and then the last month was Elevation Worship. Okay. So, as you can tell, I'm a very diverse listener in the things that I listen to on a basis.
Yeah.
But
keep things to a T. Yeah.
I look through it and see the minutes, like, it's a little bit of Drake in there, it's a little bit of NBA YoungBoy in there, there's a little bit of Zach Brown Band in there. I listen, man. I love music. Like music, I grew up playing drums. I still play drums. I grew up, in band, did band in elementary school, marching band in high school.
Right.
So I love all different types of music. And it's not just like a certain genre. Like I'm not reserved. Like I love finding new music and stuff that just like makes you kind of just like, ooh, like that feels really good in your soul. And one of my favorite artists, just because he's so uniquely talented and gifted, is Jacob Collier. He just does some crazy stuff with his voice and harmony, and it's just it hits your soul and makes you like ooh in a certain way.
He's been nominated, I think, and I think my girlfriend could attest to this. I think he's been nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys. I think last 2 years. He's well known on social media for having like these big choir things at his concerts where he'll divide the crowd like into 4 pieces and like he'll make everyone like sing different things, and it's like kind of all over the place. But I what I do remember Jacob Collier for is I remember like him making like one of those like Wired YouTube videos where it was like him basically not bragging about his perfect pitch, but basically bragging on the fact that he's basically like a musical encyclopedia. So like he'll basically like talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, and this is like some vocabulary.
There's no bragging. Like the dude just is the greatest like music encyclopedia, like record book, whatever you want to call it.
So he's up there on the rap too, like that you listen to.
He's probably not in my rap, but he's for sure up there like in personal people that I think is a really talented musician that does a lot of cool stuff.
That's fair. I will say, and this was a new feature that I didn't realize. Spotify Rap's been trying to work with like creators, at least with podcasts and that sort of thing, the last couple of years. This is now like a new thing that like I just now realized today when it came out. You can now see what your listeners like have as their top 5 podcasts, their top 5 artists, their top 5 like albums, that sort of thing. So the top 5 artists for all of you who listen to this program week in and week out are Taylor Swift, Morgan Wallen, Drake, Tyler the Creator, and the Lumineers. Which I think is a very different, very different wide range of music. But at the same time, like, first of all, first things first, Lumineers is like up there with like the Bastilles, like that era of like late 2000s, early 2010s, like folk indie pop kind of thing. Like I remember like when the Ophelia album came out a long time, which was like, oh my god, 2012, 2013, something like that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know if you do. I don't know if you remember that, but I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, Taylor, Morgan, Drake, Tyler are probably like 4 of the 15 most popular musicians on the planet. So like, I don't think that's like necessarily a surprise. Lumineers, I don't know. Maybe that was a cry from left field, but I don't know. I feel like that was like maybe a kind of surprising thing, especially with the fact that I think on most Spotify raps today, I think Drake is the most common one I've seen.
Last thing I'll say, and then I got a dip.
Yeah.
I'm actually shocked that Zach Bryan's not on that list.
That's a good point.
Over Morgan Wallen. Like I know
that's a good point.
Morgan Wallen is usually year after year the more popular guy, but I feel like there was a spark of Zach Bryan last year, maybe the year before, but
no, that's fair. Absolutely, and I will say this: Adam has to dip because he's got to go to his Bible study. By the way, he did actually bring his Bible.
I don't have it. It's over there.
It's over there. He did bring his Bible to the show, so I didn't know if he was going to.
It was on the way. Like it's a 10-minute walk that way.
He walked in, and I didn't know if there was going to be like a whole testimonial on the show, and we were going to have to like pause it and then like do a filter and then like present it that way. But regardless, he's going to go spend his time with his people. He might come back. We'll see.
Might come back.
Yeah, he might come back. But Adam, once again, thank you so much for absolutely being here on the World According to Zippy. If you haven't listened to Adam's episode, please go do so.
Go right here.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the series finale of The World According to Zippy right after that. And we're back. Welcome back to the series finale of The World According to Zippy, live here from the Memorial Union in Tempe. My name is Max Zepeda, and here making her 7th and record-breaking appearance on The World According to Zippy is my girlfriend, Kylie Ashenfleter, who has now been on twice in each of the last 2 seasons, and is now on here, as I mentioned, for the 7th time. Welcome back, babe.
Hey.
Yeah, I know this is kind of your first time in this building. We were kind of mentioning it earlier because, as you can see, we have a little bit of decoration, a little bit of decor here, celebrating the occasion. But and I have mentioned this multiple times that you've been on the program because I find it so fascinating as someone who lived in one city for much of my life, being in Houston. You've lived here your entire life,
yep.
But I'm always fascinated, nearly 2+ years into us dating, that there are so many places in this entire region. Because, I mean, Phoenix is one of the 10 biggest metroplexes in the country that you haven't been to. And you just discover more and more every single time. And I just think it's great, but at the same time, I find it so fascinating because, like, you know, in your childhood, you would think that you're basically kind of exploring, kind of like being dragged wherever your parents are, but at the same time, like, you know, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's like mainly going to work and stuff with them.
Yeah.
I went to work with my dad a lot when I was a kid. We hung out. I mean, it was in Phoenix area, but not like adventuring out and doing stuff, really,
right.
Other than, like, going out with my parents just where they were.
Yeah. Now, I will say, though, and we'll obviously keep this as a little bit of a secret, because obviously this is kind of giving it away. I did take my graduation photos today, which is super fun. She was there for the entire ride today. I will say, because of we went to numerous different places. You're going to see the photos later. You're going to see them. You're going to see them in a little bit. Trust me. But it was definitely kind of overwhelming. I didn't really show the emotion, but it definitely kind of felt overwhelming throughout much of the day, considering just how long it's been. Because it's kind of hard to believe that, like, I've been here nearly 3.5 years, and there are still parts of this campus that I'm, like, still discovering, which is, like, kind of unique and kind of odd. Because in my 3.5 years, I only had 1 class ever on this campus, and that was literally right down the block at Durham Hall, where I had my Spanish 202 class, which was a hybrid, by the way, so I didn't even have to come in every single week. But it was one of those things, like, you're going to be having a class here in Tempe next spring?
For the first time.
Yeah, and what class is that again?
It's biochemistry.
Biochem. So if you don't know, she's in med studies, and, you know, she just finished, she had her psych final today.
Physics.
For physics, yeah, it's physics, yeah. Psych, physics, same thing.
Way different.
Way different. Vocabulary similar. Anyway, but at the same time, like, when we were going around and, like, doing photos today, like, there were, like, numerous parts of campus that you had just, like, never seen. Because, like, you were mentioning, like, this is the first time you've been on this campus since you were, like, a freshman in high school, like, touring and stuff?
Yeah, we took, like, a little mini tour of ASU when I was a freshman, just to kind of, like, you know, show the students where you should go. But I didn't go around much. Like, we went to one lecture hall, and I just remember walking in being like, this is ginormous. Like, there's, like, 200 seats in here. And that's, like, mostly what I remember from that trip.
Yeah. I think it's, like, one of those weird things where, especially for me, like, I went around this campus a little bit when I toured way back in, the spring of 2022. But at the same time, when I toured and then when I went to downtown, it was 2 very different experiences. Because here, it's everyone's walking around, everyone's moving, there's constant motion happening. No pun intended there. But in downtown, it's a lot more subdued, a lot more quiet, a lot more basically much easier to access for all of, like, the essential stuff and that sort of thing. And maybe for me, being someone who was homeschooled for 9 straight years and, like, never, like, had, like, the high school public experience where everybody's running around and that sort of thing, I was maybe more appealed to that. But I quickly realized months into freshman year, and she knows this because she saw me living in Gordon Commons way back in the day, when the name changed, actually, from Taylor Post to Gordon Commons. Right. It was a unique experience because it's very little places to go get food outside of campus. There's not that much amusement when the professional sports teams are not active.
Right.
And outside of that, I mean, there's, like, a park, but it's, like, mostly homeless people, and there's, like, it's, like, pretty much, and there's obviously, like, the gym and that sort of thing. So I'm not trying to downgrade downtown in any way, because I think there's a lot of pluses and a lot of pluses to having that kind of intimate environment. But after a while, and, like, experiencing it for nearly 2 years, and now thankfully living on my own, like, it's definitely a very different experience, because especially when you have like a car and you can drive places and that sort of thing.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only knew about downtown the first semester I was at downtown. Really, I mean, outside of meeting you, I only went to where we hung out. Really,
Right.
So last semester was my first time at ASU campus downtown, and I was just like, oh, this is a lot more chill than I thought it was gonna be. It's
Right.
just it's smaller, and West is similar. It's just a very chill campus.
And from everything I had been told, basically what I was told was that prior to 2011, downtown Phoenix was an absolute wasteland. There was basically nothing going on. Buildings were barely 20 floors above in the sky outside of the Chase Tower. And there was so much little happening engagement-wise, youth-wise. Basically, a whole lot of people, except for people who worked in downtown, lived there. So the idea that when the downtown campus came and basically completely, it not only revitalized what ASU was from an expansion standpoint, but also kind of revitalized the entire downtown area, period. And now there's so many more young people who now live in that neighborhood. It's kind of hard to believe that you go to now other metro cities across the country, and it's like every other city in America, where it's of course, adults who live and work in downtown obviously live there, and not normally would young people do the same, but in Phoenix, it's one of those rare exceptions because of the expanded campus, which I think is unique and interesting because of all of the new apartments that keep opening and keep coming up. Because we've been dating now for 2+ years, and it seems like there's now 5 new buildings.
Yeah,
every
they
4
just
months.
keep popping up. I'm like, how do you have the space for that? There's more space where?
No, there's always more space.
I guess.
Yeah, no, but I will say though, the Central Station project, which is now complete, the big white tower that's right by Central Station, which basically broke ground when I arrived. It broke ground and was going to be this brand new thing. Now it's here. I've been inside once or twice now, since I've been back, or since I've been back this summer, and it looks on the inside amazing. Yeah. So I don't know who's primarily responsible for that, whether it's the city or who has it, but I mean, I was just shocked, at least from that standpoint, because I was I knew it was going to be good, but now it's certainly growing, that sort of thing. And I know for you, as someone who's obviously been to my place numerous times, I know it's definitely kind of a unique experience going from where I was living in Gordon Commons, at least in our first few months getting to know each other and that sort of thing, to now it's spacious space. There's got a pool,
it's a whole apartment.
Yeah, it's way much more space. It's not I have a whole floor dedicated. It's obviously not a whole floor. It's obviously not the grandest place in the world.
It's
but
still an apartment.
It's still an apartment, and it's definitely a much better situation than I was in. Yeah. When we started dating, because that was
shoebox.
That was a shoebox.
It's so small.
Tower 2 of Gordon Commons. Those places are. It is basically, I would say, and you can see kind of our set here. It's basically from that wall to that wall, and then maybe a door. And that was about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe smaller, maybe smaller. We don't know. Well, I will say though, I did want to bring this up while Bay was here though, is that we did have a great experience about a week and a half ago-ish or so, because she kind of mandated it on me, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do this.
Hey.
It was a little bit of all right, we'll do this as a little bit of a gift. We kind of had a whole weekend. We basically saw each other every day for 5 days, something like that.
Yeah.
But the end of that though was on a Monday night when we got to see Wicked for Good before a lot of the general public did, and I will say it was kind of deceiving because we were celebrating your mom's birthday, and we were celebrating your mom's birthday the day before, and we were thinking she was obviously really looking forward to see it. I was looking forward to see it, but it was kind of measured because I was I'm obviously gonna see it. I'm gonna see it in theaters. I saw the first one in theaters last year, so it was one of those things where it's I'm excited to see it, but she was excited to see it. And I was oh, well, they're doing these, Amazon Prime is partnering with Universal to do these exclusive early screenings. And I was oh, that's kind of cool. So Monday night, they were going to do private screenings. It was $23 per person to go see this movie 3 days. And a reminder, if we went and saw this movie on Thursday night, 3 days after it came out, the tickets probably would have been a third of that cost? Maybe a third of that cost. But she was I don't want to get spoiled. I don't want to go on Twitter. I don't want to go on Instagram. I don't want anyone to tell me and put videos and people just spamming stuff. Because we were basically seeing it the same night as the New York premiere that was going on in New York. So these videos are going to start circulating online and all that kind of stuff. And we both have seen the musical. There's not really a whole lot of spoiling to be had and that kind of thing. But how they were going to do it, she was worried about that. So I was you know what, babe? All right. We'll go see it Monday night. We'll get it out of the way. We went to a 10 o'clock, like 10:30
Oh my gosh,
p.m.
it was so
showing.
late.
We went to like a 10:30 p.m. showing.
I was like, how am I awake right now?
Yeah, we somehow got through it. It's a long movie. If you haven't gone to
Was
just
it like
see it.
2:17?
It's like 2:17 basically, 2 hours. And I will say, she obviously had much different reaction than I did, but at the same time, we walked out of that theater at like 1 a.m. and I think like the overwhelmedness of it. Like I tried to like ask her basically after the movie, it's like, so what did you think of the movie? And she was like,
I need a minute.
I need a minute.
Emotionally process what just happened.
It's been a week and a half now. Where do you think the thought process is now because she has seen it now a second time, by the way.
I saw it with my family. I thought it was great both times. It's very meaningful to me just because like I've had a connection with Wicked for like a long time.
She's wearing the green, by the way. Wearing the green. Represent.
Yeah, but like watching the first one was already like emotional. Seeing it, I cried at the first one, and I also cried at this one. But it just it was so special to me to see it, and I think it was so beautifully filmed too. Like it was just, I love the cinematography. I love all the set design in it. I think it really kind of brought me in to the film. Just like I was like, wow, I'm in Oz.
I mean, we were kind of in like we saw it in Dolby, which for those of you movie nerds out there or movie theater nerds, which there are very few of, but I do watch you guys on YouTube. There are such thing as movie theater nerds. There's obviously 3D. There's obviously IMAX. But Dolby is basically like what they tell you. What Dolby tells you is like it's like clear video. It's like surround sound stuff, and like it's not as big of a screen as IMAX, but it's just. It's much bigger than your normal theater, basically. And we had like these like chairs that like literally reclined to the point where we could have fallen asleep.
And they shook.
Yeah, and they shook. It was like a whole thing. Not like 40X shook, but like shook-ish.
Not that crazy. But
shook-ish, yeah.
Like,
but no, I mean like my reaction going in was like kind of very similar. Like I loved the first movie. I thought the first movie kind of lived up to I think a lot of overwhelming people who like had been waiting for the movie for years and lived up to the expectation. This one, I think, is kind of unique because, you know, talking to both my mother and my sister's been involved in musical theater for so long, part of her life, I didn't realize there was a massive erroneous joke. And maybe for you musical theater lovers, you probably understand this. There's a big erroneous joke, basically going back to when Wicked was released in 2003, that the second act of the musical is notoriously worse than the first act. Not worse in the context that it's bad, but worse in the context that, like, the high of the end of the first act could not physically be met at any point in the second act to the point where you feel like the story's justified, like if there's a meaningful conclusion, yada yada yada. It obviously, if you haven't seen the show, spoiler alert, it ends on a cliffhanger. Like it's like there's a whole it's a whole lot of stuff that like a lot of people who maybe are movie critics and people who like wear suits and go like, oh, this is movies, like,
garbage,
this is film, you know, like that kind of thing, who are obviously Oscar voters, Golden Globe voters, all that kind of stuff. Like they, or, you know, BAFTAs, all that kind of thing. They would probably look at this and maybe without the experience of seeing the musical and be like, what the heck? I didn't pay for this. Like, this is not what I expected. This is not what I didn't expect darkness. I didn't expect a lack of humor. But for people who have seen the musical, which there are obviously millions across the world who have, they were expecting it. They were just trying to see if there was going to be a different, maybe change the tone, and they decided to go by the book.
All right.
Which I think is kind of, I think it's interesting to the point where I think we were both kind of uniquely floored in different moments of watching the movie, of expecting things, but also kind of seeing where they took the left turn and where they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously For Good is such a meaningful song, and it also very emotional, because the scene in general is just, like, the interactions between Elphaba and Glinda, they're like, it's like saying goodbye to your best friend. That's so sad.
Yeah.
And then also with No Good Deed, the filming they did on that too was beautiful.
Yeah,
like,
which was basically entirely visual effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the only thing that was not visual effects was her. Everything else was. Because,
I thought it was good.
No, I thought it was great, and I think it's going to be kind of upsetting because Wicked was nominated for Best Visual Effects last year at the Academy Awards, didn't win.
Yeah.
This year will probably get nominated again. And spoiler alert, there is a movie coming out in 2 weeks called Avatar: The Way of Water. Or not The Way of Water, sorry. I keep getting the name wrong thinking of the past movie. Avatar: Fire and Ash, which is the third film, which is coming out in 2 weeks. spoiler alert, that's probably going to win, just because, spoiler alert, all of Avatar is entirely visual effects.
Right.
Nothing in Avatar is practical. So when you're giving a movie like Avatar, in any sense, like in any Avatar movie, visual effects, you're basically saying, oh, they did visual effects the best because their entire movie was visual effects. Like, if you take all the visual effects out of Avatar, guess what? You have a black screen, because there is nothing. There's nothing there. But I will say this. I definitely was floored by the visual effects this time in comparison to last time, because last time the production design was what I think floored a lot of people with how realistic the Emerald City was, how realistic Oz was. So I think people knew what they were going to expect this time. But the way the visual effects were kind of... Because there were so many different setting points this time, and... I that was a big critique of mine coming out of the movie and reflecting on it, is like there was a lot of jump cutting, there was a little transitions going from bit to bit to bit to bit, but like the musical, that is kind of how the second act flows, which I know some people don't necessarily like. So obviously like that was a little bit of kind of jarring to see, going from like a hut to the Emerald City to a castle to like all these random places, and then just like you're like, oh, where are we? You know, like that kind of thing. So you probably didn't see it from that lens, but you were probably going with the flow of the songs.
I understand it because, like, just because I know Wicked the musical doesn't mean I'm like, oh, what happened? I understand, like, the some of it was a little bit choppy, like the transitions were okay, but like, yeah.
No, but I think we both when No Good Deed happened, I think we were both kind of like jaw on the floor kind of moment, because I think we both know that Cynthia Erivo has had a shot multiple times. She certainly had a shot last year to win Best Actress. Fell short to to the performance that Amelia Perez had and all those kind of movies. But certainly I feel like this year there was kind of a level up, considering that at least in the second act it is more her movie. Yes, 100%. I think a lot of people will view like the whole debate of like they're both leading actresses or they're both supporting each other and yada yada yada. In this movie, Elphaba is the leading actress 100%, because the story does, even when she's not on screen, literally all the dialogue and all the songs are about her, which I think is quite fascinating for those, especially for those of you who may have not seen the musical. But it was a good refresher, at least for me, because I was like, wow, so like just the entire movie is just about where she is, what she's up to, and then, you kind of basically like seeing her kind of behind the scenes journey and that sort of thing, because she's obviously embracing her wickedness at that point. Right. But for you at least, and I know we had a passionate discussion on this, and this is kind of the last point on this before we'll transition, we both kind of a little bit of an argument, though, right after the movie about who necessarily should have the front running of at least awards conversation, that sort of thing. I have been of the opinion since the first one that the bar for Ariana Grande was not so low, but like not as obviously high of what Cynthia could do in a musical film. What Ariana has done in both of these movies is easily one of the great feats that I think any actor who's like a celebrity, and that, because there's so much stigma about casting a celebrity or casting a pop star or casting, someone who's not known for acting in that kind of position. And what she did in these two movies, not only from a vocal standpoint, but from a specifically acting standpoint, I think is so groundbreaking to a lot of directors and a lot of studios who are going to try to do movie musicals or big ambitious films like this in the future, and they're going to look at maybe a pop star or look at someone who you might think is like, oh, fit to just bring in viewers, bring in tickets, bring in the audience. But not only did Ariana Grande bring in the audience, she delivered with her performance in tenfold. And I think 100%, considering the lack of competition this year, unlike last year where she was competing against Zoe Saldana and so many other great actresses, this year I think she has a clear opportunity in front of her to, and I'll say this, if she wins the Golden Globe in January, which is obviously before all the Oscar stuff and everything like that, if she wins at least the Golden Globe, I think she's 100% the favorite to win come March. At least in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that after both movies, but I think both movies now being evaluated, I think that has to be at least what a lot of people
supporting for sure. Like I've never said her performance was bad. I really liked her version of Glinda. I thought she did amazing. I lost her in the role. When I found out that she was going to be cast as Glinda, I was like, okay.
And that's fair,
Odd
right?
choice.
That's fair.
And I obviously, I don't know the whole history that Ariana Grande has with, Kristen Chenoweth and her whole history with Wicked and performing Defying Gravity in front of a lot of people. But part of me was like iffy, and then I watched the first movie and I was like, wow, she was just like, I was Glinda, like,
right,
yeah. So I think she totally could win for supporting.
Mm-hmm. But you, when we, like I mentioned the disagreement, you mentioned though right after we walked out of the theater, you're like, Cynthia has to win, or Cynthia has to have a legitimate chance to win because of what she did.
Thought her like emotional performance that she brought to this role was so good, and with like current political climate stuff, it's just like, I think it would be really appropriate for her to win. It's empowering. So
yeah, it's certainly, you know, what they were able to do, especially at the Oscars last year. They like sang, I think they both sang Defying Gravity, and I think Ariana or somebody did Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I forgot what else they did. But they were both honored in a big way last year because it was kind of like this, I mean, it's a feat. It's like this movie that people have been looking forward to for basically a decade, that have been talked about, numerous different castings, directors, all that kind of stuff. But it was certainly at least surprising, like the reaction that you had after watching the first movie, of what the bar was for Ariana Grande going in, and seeing how different the bar was going in to just this past movie. Because my bar, as probably for a lot of other people, was all the way up here for her and what she was capable of doing. Now, in fairness, it's less humor, it's less like comedic timing and stuff, which made her thrive in the first movie. And in fairness, in the first act of the musical, she is supposed to kind of be the funny, kind of witty, you know, like representing the popular, completely full of herself. But obviously, you see the transition of her accepting the guilt and the reasoning of like realizing what she's done, and you see that obviously in the show. But in the film, how she's able to translate that acting, I think, is very, very powerful. But for a lot of movie critics, they probably saw it like, no, this is not what I came to see. I came to see her, you know, be in that first act again, be cracking the jokes, you know, and installing herself into all these situations. But that's not how the book was written. Sorry, hate to blame it to you, but like that's not how that you can't blame John M. Chu and the creative team for going in the route of staying true to the book, because if they're going to appease the fans in a way to where, who knows, maybe a new spin-off comes, maybe like new stories involving the other books. Because spoiler, if you don't know, there are 3 other books in the Wicked book franchise that basically like tell the story of like Elphaba and Fiyara's son. Like there's like the lion, like there's a whole lion arc that like is like brand new and all that kind of thing. So go to Barnes and Noble, you'll find out all the other books. But the other stories, like if Universal had any chance to possibly do other versions of this IP and possibly spin it off going forward, they had to, with the original material, stick to it. Because if they were going to possibly turn in and flip it, because there are obviously like so many other IPs, like I know one that obviously rings at least to mind in my memory is Hunger Games, and what they did in the final 2 films with Mockingjay. And there are a lot of parts of Mockingjay in the book that are completely left out and switched.
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, what? And
a lot of people were kind of confused by that. Now, obviously, there have been other Hunger Games movies. There's prequels. There was a prequel that came out 2 years ago.
Fan-made.
Yes. There's a fan-made prequel that someone made on YouTube recently. And there's a new prequel coming next year. I think next March, next April, I believe, is the next
November.
Next November,
it's like a movie sandwich. We get Hunger Games prequel, Wicked, Hunger Games prequel.
Right. So, yeah. So, point being, though, is when I saw the Hunger Games situation, like I looked at that where they basically like kind of flipped the storylines in the first and second part of Mockingjay, and in many ways Wicked for Good could have easily done that same thing, made Glinda more comedic, inserted all these kind of new storylines, that sort of thing. But they didn't. They stuck to the book. They stuck to their guns. Obviously, the fans of the show appreciate it, but movie critics were just like, "This is not as good." Yeah, it's a fair. I guess
opinion. I'm not a movie critic, but I thought that was amazing. So.
Hey, but I think we're both on the same opinion, though. Both women obviously killed it in both of these movies. Yeah. Both women will absolutely be. They're at least going to be nominated. We know that. The only underlying question is the competition going to be different from last year? And I think certainly, at least in my opinion, Ariana's case is certainly more validating than Cynthia's. We'll have to see what the competition is for Cynthia. Right, but at least when it comes to Ariana, she has to be, especially if she wins the Golden Globe, which I hope she does. If she wins the Golden Globe, she's definitely going to be, at least in my opinion, the favorite come March for the Academy Awards. We're going to take a quick break, and you're probably going to be relaxed a little bit. We're going to take a quick break here on the series finale of The World According to Zippy for my incredible girlfriend, Kylie Ashenfleter, making her 7th and record-breaking appearance. We have another incredible guest coming on the other side here from the Tempe Memorial Union. Welcome back to the series finale of The World According to Zippy, episode 63, season 5, episode 13, here from the Memorial Union Studios here in Tempe. My name is Max Zepeda. Welcome you back to the Memorial Union, and more importantly, it's almost kind of hard to explain how our next guest here on the series finale is important to this whole journey. Not just the journey of these last 2.5 years of this show, but really the entire 3.5-year journey I've been at here at Arizona State, because I think it's hard to put into words. I mean, we mentioned it about 3 or 4 weeks ago when we had one of our more listened shows, not only of this season, but in recent memory, when we had our Son of a Source special with our great friend Chris Carbon, who's now a friend of the program. And he straight up mentioned on this show that this guest, who's now sitting to my right, is somebody that he's never come across in nearly the 20 years that he's been doing his job covering Arizona State athletics. And I, as someone who has known him, obviously, for the last 3.5 years, I'm like, to hear that coming from, all of my friends and all of our other peers, that makes sense to hear, kind of the hyperbole, or as kids like to call it, the glazing and all that kind of stuff. But to come from somebody of that stature is certainly something that, I was like, okay, it's setting in, because, it's hard to explain, the work ethic. It's hard to explain what this individual has done to get himself into the position that he's in. But I don't really think there's any further introduction. He's a Fox 10 sports anchor. He was obviously a Son of a Source multimedia journalist for quite a while, nearly 2 years, and is now has been thriving in one of the top 10 markets in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, a now 4-time attendee on The World According to Zippy, Blake Niemann, is back. Welcome back, Blake.
Well, super glad to be back. What an introduction. That was so sweet, so kind. Very much appreciate that.
Yeah, this is your 4th appearance on the program. You tie yourself officially with Cavan Malayter for now 3rd all-time with 4 appearances. Ryan Sikora is 5th with 2nd. And then, just moments ago, my girlfriend Kylie Ashenfleter sets the record, extending it, I should say, to 7 appearances now on the show full-time. But more importantly, though, Blake, we had you last for the season 4 finale with us two, with Ben Parris. You actually had to leave the show early because you had work to do, which is so typical. So typical of you. But I'm very glad you were able to make time tonight when there's no Suns, not really a whole lot of Phoenix sports leagues going on. Obviously, both ASU and U of A are kind of taking time off, with both of them waiting for their next bowl game destinations and that sort of thing. On the football side, men's basketball side, I believe Arizona is now 4th or 3rd in the country, I think, something like that.
They're playing well.
Yeah, they're playing well, obviously, to no surprise. And then, obviously, Arizona State obviously has the massive matchup with Oklahoma on Saturday, which I'm assuming you will be in the building for on that end. But I will say this, because I mentioned this earlier in the program, I had my graduation photos today. I got the stoles out here, I got the cap out here. You obviously had, your obviously graduation in May. We kind of were able to celebrate you guys as you guys walked out the door back in May with yourself, Ben Parris, obviously Ryan Sikora, obviously set the record at the time, all those people who we had on that show. But it's so kind of overwhelming now to kind of be in that position now, 6 months later, and to kind of do so in a very unique way, considering fall graduations are obviously, like most schools, obviously smaller class, smaller attendees, that kind of thing. But I think at the same time, it's definitely going to feel like kind of a full circle moment. I think we kind of talked about it nearly 6 months ago, how it was a full circle moment for you. But I think definitely it's going to feel that way, 2 weeks from today, down the street, obviously, at DFA.
Yeah, it's going to be a special moment for you, bro. I'm so proud of your growth, over the past 3.5 years. Like you said, we both got here day one, and, we've been riding together through the whole time, and I can't wait to see where this industry takes you. You've got so much talent, so much passion, so much drive and dedication, and I've just loved to see what you've done with this show, man. It's been so creative, and you're so introspective into everyone's life, and you just care so much about people, and it's really commendable, and it's really cool what you've been able to do here, man.
I really do appreciate that, Blake. And I obviously, when you compliment about my work ethic, that is a very big, hefty compliment coming from someone like you, who we had on the 11th episode of this show way back in the fall of 23. And I remember one of the first things you said when we did, basically one of our first discussions, one of the first things I basically asked you was why your work ethic was so intense, why you push yourself to the point of near extremities of wanting to get every single and seize every single opportunity you had in front of you. And you talked about your incredible journey that you went through with your eating disorder, with the way you battled through obviously your wrestling career and your football career in high school, and then how you basically put all that energy into originally Blake's Take, and then obviously everything that you did at CSN. So I think it's so interesting that now everything's kind of come full circle, and obviously Chris Carbon on our Son of a Source special just a few weeks back saying that, like, you know, you are someone who literally made history, not just in the Phoenix market, but almost kind of nationwide. Like, it's a big deal, but at the same time, not going too far into the glazing territory. Like, is it one of those things that, like, you kind of embrace, that, like, all this stuff that you've been able to experience now in the last 10 months with this job, is it like one of those things where you feel like you're kind of now in a routine, you kind of feel like you've been welcomed by everyone, you're not really looked at in the newsroom as like, oh, this is like the 20-year-old kid we've decided to invest money into? Like, are you kind of like, do you feel like kind of it's now like a welcome community for you now?
Yeah, the people at Fox 10 have been fantastic. They've welcomed me with open arms. Everyone's been super welcoming and super accommodating and helping me to get settled in, and it really did not take me too long from when I got there in February to find my footing and to really hit the ground running and kind of proceed on as usual as I was going at ASU. But I've really kind of, it's been a smooth transition because I've been able to lean a large part into the ASU beat that I was covering at for Sun Devil Source and Chris Cartman, because Fox 10 is the ASU TV partner station. So that's helped a lot, just being able to maintain those relationships I built in college and just continue to build upon them in a professional TV setting. And I think being able to leverage those relationships like I have with notable athletes like Cam Scadaboo, Sam Levitt, and Jordan Tyson, and even coaches too, has just really helped me gain respect within the newsroom, getting exclusive interviews, and just trying to hustle my way into getting opportunities and seizing moments that other people in the market don't have. And that I think you kind of have to do that when you're first getting into a market and you're 21 years old. Like, you got to show that you're worth it.
Right. And I think, and I don't know if any of our guests that we've had previously on the finale and ones that are going to be on here very soon can agree with this. Like, when it comes to the ASU beat, not just football-wise, but across the athletic department, I think when I see the social media attention and see kind of where do fans go, it's Chris Cardman, it's obviously Devil's Digest, and then it's you. Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, especially in these last like 6 months with the amount of stories that you've done off the field and individuals, like I remember in August the story that you did with the faith coordinator at ASU football, and how you basically like went down his story, and people that literally no one would see or pay attention to, who like kind of have like these behind the scene roles. And obviously the story that you did on an individual that I did a story on back in April, Justin Watley, where you kind of like went into his backstory, and I obviously got the chance to interview his whole family back in April after spring ball. So I think it's so fascinating that, like you said, you're dialed in on, obviously you're covering every single professional sport and college sport and all that kind of thing. It's part of your job, but they brought you in because of your experience not only with Source to be the insider, the guy. And I think that's not only a very powerful position to be in, but I think one that you are not only trying to seize, obviously, with each passing week, regardless of what sport's going on, but at the same time, you're trying to obviously learn kind of new things. Because like for example, you just put out something I think today or a couple days ago where you literally did a mic'd up of Molly Miller, where you literally had her mic'd up for an entire game, inside the locker room, on the bench, all that kind of stuff, which obviously NBC, any other outlet probably wouldn't get the access to do. But when they know it's you coming, they're going to be like, oh yeah, like, look at this guy's track record. So like, it's one of those things that like there are now opening doors for you where you can be able to kind of seize all these kind of other new things. And for you, is that kind of in many ways daunting, or do you just kind of see it as like, all right, we'll do whatever they offer us to do, we're going to do it, and we're just going to see what happens?
Well, I think it's just a blessing that I've been able to build these relationships, and it's not necessarily them like opening the door. I think you got to kind of turn the handle of the door for yourself. I've always been a big advocate, even when I was at Cronkite, of creating your own opportunities. That's the biggest advice I can give anyone, is like that's how I got my start in this industry, was starting my own YouTube channel, like you mentioned, Blake's Take, with my squeaky
if you have not seen those videos, please go look them up on YouTube. They will give you humor for the rest of your life.
But I seriously made like 300 videos between my junior and senior year of high school, and like I used my iPhone to film. I bought a like $40 teleprompter, a tablet teleprompter.
You had a green screen, right?
Had a green screen. Used my spare bedroom with a foldable table. Like you just make it happen. And then I would like call games from the top of the football stadium in college when I was doing play-by-play into my iPhone with boards and stuff.
Yeah,
it's just like there's not a limit.
Yeah, you guys have to understand. For those of you who like have aspirations of possibly going to play-by-play, he would literally freshman year make his own like football, basically, like, I don't know if you guys have seen YouTube videos of Greg Papa, who's been the longtime radio voice of the 49ers. He basically, like, writes all of his play-by-play boards on, like, little manila folders. He basically did the exact same thing and would call ASU football games in the 2022 season, which was a horrible year for football, and you would go up there in a half-empty Mountain America Stadium and literally just call these games on, like, the back row of section 305, 306, when, everyone else is in a comfortable press box. But obviously you're a freshman, you're not covering the team at the time. But you were just like, I mean, there's no reason for me. Like, you didn't take the time to kind of enjoy the time of being a student or, like, enjoy the time of being, like, a fan and that sort of thing. So for you, now working for Fox, where you're obviously an unbiased journalist, you're trying to approach things in an unbiased way, but you have kind of the more leniency to kind of talk to your audience and be like, we're rooting for ASU. We're rooting for ASU to succeed. So is it kind of like one of those things where that balance of, like, the unbiased journalism and, like, the fandom, like, this kind of fandom that you've been wanting to have for ASU for a while is, like, starting to finally kind of maybe brew a little bit? Or is it like it never happened originally and it's probably never going to happen now because you have this job?
It never happened originally and it probably will never happen. I've been taught and brought up by Chris Cartman, who, as you had on the podcast, he's like an uncle to me, and I would be doing him a disservice in all the mentorship and guidance he gave me to go away from being unbiased and being as objective as possible. Yes, I went to ASU and graduated from ASU, so that is a part of what makes me me, but I tried to cover ASU from a neutral light as much as possible and try and just be truthful and accurate. Truth and accuracy are the two pillars of journalism, so I try and stick by that. But I will say, to your point of, like, me not enjoying the college experience of being a student, I will say, like, it sounds weird to say, but, like, my life has been easier post-college now in this job at Fox 10 than it was in college, because
Really?
Like you said, I pushed myself so hard in college, grinding to get this dream opportunity of being in a top 10 market and covering all the different sports team and living in a wonderful place. Like, the goal for me, I told people, like, and going into my senior year, was to stay in Phoenix. My ultimate goal was to stay in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, I was able to achieve that goal. But now I've found a lot more balance in my life, because now it's like I don't have to open the Canvas app. I don't have to, run a club, which I didn't do a great job of. But I mean,
if you think you didn't run the club well, I might. There are others who have necessary opinions, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, but now it's just like I do my job, and it's crazy to think Blake Niemann doesn't use his personal laptop at home anymore.
Whoa!
This is a guy who, like, stayed up till like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in college, but now it's like I found a lot of life work separation and been able to get closer and closer to that medium. I'm not perfect. I still overwork. Obviously, you kind of have to if you want to be passionate in this industry. But I'm finding a lot more balance in life, which has been very healthy for me.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, you're getting that experience as well for, not sure what that was. You're finding that balance kind of too, because when you joined Fox, at least in January, you kind of were able to kind of go through the ASU calendar kind of in a non-football setting where you're not having to go through the week-to-week grind, and you were able to kind of experiment with baseball and that sort of thing and seize, like, all of those other opportunities. So now I think it's kind of fitting for you that, and for those of you who haven't seen this news published by Blake individually, you are probably, we don't know the history behind this. I'm going to have to probably go on Google, and there's probably no official database, but you're 21.
Yes.
And you're going to be voting for who wins the Heisman Trophy.
That's
a very powerful responsibility to have. But at the same time, for those of you who don't know, it's like 550 people, like something like that, somewhere in like the 400 to 500 range, something like that, of like not only media but also former winners, college football Hall of Famers, basically not only Heisman trustees, all these kind of stuff. So media-wise, it's probably like maybe 20% of that 400, 500, and for you to kind of be in that room, and for the Heisman trustees, who are all like in their 50s, 60s, 70s, all across the country, to look at your work and to say that, like, okay, this guy knows college football, this guy knows the sport, this guy obviously covers ASU, and he does it in his own unique way, but at the same time, we can trust him to basically present his thoughts on easily the most important individual award in the sport. And for you, as someone who grew up basically an Oregon State fan, grew up in a college town, like, that's to have that kind of responsibility this young, it's almost kind of unfathomable, don't you think?
I'm truly amazed by this opportunity, and like I said, by the grace of God, all glory to God. I'm a big faith-driven man, and I defer all credit to him because there's no way on my own I just deserve this opportunity. It's by his graceful hand. It's by the work of Doug Tamero recommending me for the opportunity. I did not, this isn't something you apply for. This is just something that I was selected for, and just very, very fortunately selected for. I'm so grateful. Doug Tamero put in a good word for me, and Chris Cartman also, who is a fellow Heisman voter, put in a good word for me with the chair of the Arizona Heisman Committee. Each region has a chair, and Arizona has a Heisman chair who works at the Tucson Star that reached out to me, and I was asked if I was interested. I sent him my information, and a couple months go by, and then it became official about a week ago, and I'm just very much looking forward to watching Conference Championship this weekend to help me with my voting process. I cannot reveal my ballot.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so who are you voting for? I was gonna ask, so who are you voting for? But here's the thing, though, obviously, you guys are expected to turn your ballots, I believe, on next Monday or next Sunday, I think.
The deadline is December 6th.
December 6th. So the day after the conference championships, when the bowls will get announced, when the playoff is announced, when everything basically comes out publicly. You obviously can't tell us who you're voting for, but what I think you can tell us is the fact that you've obviously been so, like myself, like the people we're going to have on in just a second, we've been so focused with ASU football in the last 3 months. We've been invested with that. We're following this team, and we're kind of zero locked in. I'm a voter on the student media poll, but I basically watch highlights until 2, 3 a.m. on Saturday night just to vote on that, because I'm obviously, if I'm covering a game that week, I'm not really kind of following what's going on with the rest of the country, and I think you're kind of in that same boat as well. So for you, as a Heisman voter now, when you're now watching Conference Championship Saturday, when there's the Fernando Mendozas, the Julian Sayans, the Ty Simpsons, the Dante Moores, who obviously just finished their play last week. I mean, obviously Diego Pavia, who just finished his play last week. For you, as a Heisman voter, as someone who kind of really hasn't been watching much of the country, are you in the process right now? Are you going back and watching old highlights, watching old film? Talk to me, what is your process now as someone who's been so deep invested into one program, but you have 6 days to make this huge decision?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that makes up the Heisman, and I'm trying to stick as much for my voting process within the definition of the award, and that is the most outstanding college football player in the year 2025. And that can be based on a lot of factors. That can be based off statistics, so I take that into account. That can be based off style of play, which I take into account by the highlights and going back and looking at footage and film and seeing how they play, seeing how they handle certain situations early in games, late in games, after they throw an interception, how they respond, after they face some adversity, how they respond. And then I personally, at least this is how I'm going to take it into account, is leadership and quality of character, because I feel that also makes up a Heisman. Is I feel it's the most outstanding player, but I feel it's also an outstanding person, and I feel that kind of goes hand in hand. So I go back and look at interviews and stories that have been done on these athletes and see how they've kind of handled that and how they're handling their success. And I think that all kind of encompass what the Heisman Trophy winner is.
And I would imagine you probably watched, because I was even thinking about this recently, just scrolling through YouTube. I would imagine that you probably watched previous Heisman ceremonies as well, and seen the stories of past winners with their families. And obviously, last year's winner Travis Hunter didn't really have his family present. His mom was there, but really his whole family that was there was a combination of Shedeur Sanders, obviously his teammate, his coach Deion Sanders, who had been his coach basically his entire college career going back to Jackson State, his fiance at the time, and then also for some reason Lil Wayne and a bunch of other random people who were considered his friends and that sort of thing. So for you, I would imagine that, and we literally just had this right before our recording here of the series finale. We had Blaze Game Day in here, and we had an analyst literally here on Blaze Game Day talk about Jacob Rodriguez in this conversation, and how obviously there's quarterbacks is such a driven award when it comes to the Heisman because of impact and how they the value that they bring to their team, which is obviously always a factor that Heisman voters look at. But Jacob Rodriguez, I think, is kind of one of those unique discussions where linemen have been voted in the past, defensive backs have been voted in the past to be finalists. But, I mean, watching him, I would imagine, for us who were literally just at the Big 12 Championship last year, it's going to be very interesting to see how he plays for the second time against the same opponent, how they're going to kind of respond, and playing in what we now know is a sold-out AT&T Stadium. It should be kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob Rodriguez, no doubt, is in the conversation, is in my thought processes of my list. I mean, he's a guy who's had 7 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, has over 100 tackles on the year. He's put up, I mean, if you look back to it, excuse me, when Notre Dame's Manti Te'o, the guy who was in the catfishing scandal and played in the national championship.
Finished second behind Menzel.
Right. Mm-hmm. He got voted to get there, but Jacob Rodriguez has literally put up better stats than Manti Te'o. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a different day and age of college football, but, you know, Jacob Rodriguez, he's currently leading the fan vote right now. He's definitely not someone who's just to sniff at or leave out of the conversation. He has been as central of a piece as there is to this Texas Tech team getting to the Big 12 championship, and especially I'm intrigued to see how he elevates on this big stage. He didn't have a great performance last week. He only had 4 total tackles, but that's what I'm really looking for this week is, like, how are these guys who are in my Heisman contention, and there are some who are not going to be playing that are within the conversation, that are not going to be playing this weekend. But those who are in this championship setting, how are they going to elevate? And I've especially got my eyes on the Big Ten championship between Julian Sain and Fernando Mendoza.
Especially with how well that Ohio State defense is playing, basically having opponents allow like 8 points per game through the whole season, which is hard to believe because a lot of people will say, like, oh, the national media talks about Ohio State all the time. They actually really haven't. And the fact is, because they've been basically blowing out every single buddy, no one really talks about them because, like, every single week it's just kind of assumed what the result's going to be. So the fact that they're not
playing... And their wide receiver coach just left, which was interesting this morning. I mean, their wide receiver coach literally has developed 5 first-round picks. It's like Jackson Smith and Jimbo, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and now Emeka Egbuka.
Right,
so
Emeka
all
Egbuka,
5 of those guys were developed by this wide receiver coach, and he just left to take the head coaching job at USF. So that's going to be interesting how that affects. He said he's going to continue to coach at Ohio State through the playoff, but that's going to be interesting how that affects Ohio State as wide receiver U going forward.
Right. It's so interesting that everyone who's now taking new jobs is now going back to coach their old teams in the playoff, and there's just I don't know. I find that super interesting.
Mr. Kiffin.
Yeah, except we won't go too deep into that. It's the only exception. We won't go too deep into that. One person, before I change the topic here real quick, because I obviously want to get our other guests in here as well. The one person, though, I'm really interested to see how the conversation is, and I bet you'll be going back and watching all of the film, not probably just this year, but kind of the impact and the vocal leadership and the dozens and dozens of stories that have been about him, and that's Diego Pavia. The idea that he is not just kind of the central figure of his team or his season, but these last 2 years of this program that, in many ways, alongside Indiana, and even kind of almost alongside Arizona State, the 3 programs that have kind of flipped the sport in this new NIL portal era and have basically turned their narratives completely upside down. Now, in fairness, Arizona State has a legacy of football. They obviously have all these great moments in their history. They can say that, like, oh, yes, it was a transition, but it was a transition in this time. Vanderbilt and Indiana are 2 programs that had zero, literally any football success. And in the case of Vanderbilt, hadn't had any success since James Franklin was their coach in the mid-2000s. So the idea that now, under Clark Lee, who just signed his extension, and Pavia, who is now kind of in the central of this argument where Vanderbilt doesn't look like they're probably going to get to the college football playoff right now because of the new rankings, but what he has done individually to impact his team, not just this year and these last 2 years, does that influence your voting when it comes to the order of who's 1, who's 2, who's 3, who's 4, as like not only how do the value that they bring to their teams this season, but how they've maybe changed the program as a whole from a leadership standpoint?
Absolutely. I mean, the storyline of the character is essential, I think, in this. And it's like the most outstanding college football player in 2025. And like Diego Pavia has been electrifying for the sport. I mean, you can argue like there's been more media attention on Diego Pavia than the 2 Heisman frontrunners right now, which are Julian Sain and Fernando Mendoza, in the eyes of the fans and those who are setting lines on the thing.
Might not be your favorites, but
it's not my favorites.
Yeah.
But it's like, it may not be my favorites. So it's like, when you look at Diego Pavia, like he's been at the centric piece of this turnaround of Vandy football, who's absolutely sleeping in just dormant program, right? And then he is the engine to ignite this, along with Clark Lee, like you were saying, and it's just hard to ignore. It's really hard to ignore, and I think it's very odd that they're as far into the playoff picture as they are right now, I'm kind of head-scratching why Notre Dame's so thick in the picture. I won't get too deep into that, but like especially in why Miami's behind them. I don't know. I have some problems with some of that. Look,
let's be honest. If we could do like a poll on this show, what are the odds in 10 years that this man becomes a member of the CFP committee? I think it's pretty high. I think it's fairly high. And that's not, for those who are watching, this is not glaze. This is just facts. I'm not trying to this man's ego. I'm just trying to say that if the Heisman Trust thinks this man is qualified to vote on this kind of award, who knows? I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, obviously,
Paula put in a good word for me.
Yeah, Paul. Yeah, let's get Paula to put in a good word for this man so he gets himself in that position. But yeah, I mean, like, the rankings are obviously a well-known conversation, and I mean, the one scenario that I at least have in mind is if Alabama wins the SEC and if BYU wins the Big 12, what the hell happens with all of the kind of at-large situation? Does Notre Dame and Miami and Texas and everyone else who's considering for at-larges, do all of them just get pushed to the wayside just to fit in those two? And who knows, does Alabama get a first-round bye? Does BYU now have a home game?
Does Alabama make it?
Does Alabama make it? No, but that's what I'm saying. But if Alabama wins the SEC, is what I'm saying. If they win the SEC, which, by the way, is totally possible with the fact they've won 10 of the last 11 matchups against Georgia, and Georgia knows this, so wholeheartedly that they feel like they can never beat Alabama in this kind of a stage. But if both of them win, if both of those underdogs win, what kind of domino does that unfold, and does that make almost Selection Sunday kind of an afterthought with the fact that those two spots are now taken up, and Georgia now has to host a playoff game, and Texas Tech possibly has to go on the road now, and all of the chaos that could still happen. It's going to be kind of exciting, and I know for you as someone who's literally been either at Mount America Stadium or has been on the road or has been trying to juggle all these responsibilities, it's going to be probably very gratifying for you to just sit back in the quiet of your home, watch all the games, because I think a lot of people would be like, I think I would kind of want to watch the games with this guy on Saturday, but I bet knowing a guy like you probably guys like, guys, I need to be locked in, because I got a job to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna be as locked in as to watching college football on a TV that I have been in a while. Most of the time, I'm watching it through a camera lens. But it's going to be enjoyable. It's kind of bittersweet that ASU's not in the Big 12 championship, because that was a whole lot of fun getting to cover that down in Arlington last year. And what a special time that was, Cam Scatterbo going off. And that's why I think it's so important to watch the conference championships before casting the ballot, because there's so much that can change in that time frame.
I'm telling you guys, we brought up this story on the show in the past, but the story that I will never forget from that trip is the fact that after that game, which was, long craziness, we were there like 6 hours. We basically left after the SEC championship game was done, and we knew I think it was in overtime at that point. But when we left, it was already like halftime of the SEC championship game. It was back and forth. I think SMU Clemson had themselves a big lead, and we were kind of like, oh, what does this potentially mean for ASU? And I remember the craziness of being at Texas Live with myself, Ben Parris, Ethan Schweiger was there, I believe, at that time as well. And you and Gabby Chernoff, who also made the trip, the friend of the program, we were all kind of watching the game simultaneously in different spots. And the trip of Clemson basically nailing this 53-yard field goal after SMU had tied the game to send it to overtime, that kind of anxiety and thrill of ASU possibly going on the road to play either Notre Dame or Penn State that year, which, spoiler alert, they played each other in the semifinals, so they were both fairly good and probably would have smoked Arizona State in their environment in the cold. To have an opportunity to play indoors in Atlanta after a month's rest, that experience is entirely different, and the fact that we saw that switch like that right after the game that we had just saw, where ASU basically not only beat Iowa State, dominated Iowa State. It was one of those things I think I at least thoroughly will remember for a very long time, because that was an amazing experience.
I have very fond memory of that, because the next week I had a flight booked and went through on this flight to State College, because my family, my dad's side is all from State College, Pennsylvania. My dad went to Penn State, grew up in State College, and all of his two brothers. So I was in State College that week preparing. I was with my grandparents in anticipation that Cam Scatterbo would hopefully get invited to the Heisman ceremony. Right. I would have driven up from State College. It's about a 4-hour drive to New York City. Would have gone there, and then the hope after that was that ASU would play Penn State, and then I would just stay with my grandparents the whole following week. Yeah. And it would have been a great setup. Unfortunately, neither of those things
happened.
I do think, now, if I would have had a Heisman vote last year, I would have voted for Cam Scatterbo on my ballot. He wouldn't have been first, He would have been on the ballot.
Reminder, unbiased journalist. Reminder,
he's deserved it.
No, I understand. I completely understand. But
he ended up in New York one way or another.
Yes, I understand that. But if you look at the 4 winner, you had Travis, because if you don't know, Scadaboo finished 5th. Hunter, who obviously won it. You had Genty, who probably had maybe the best season a running back had in maybe a decade.
Since Barry Sanders.
Yeah, since Barry Sanders. You had Dylan Gabriel, who walked away from the sport with the highest completion percentage in the history of the sport for a career. And I think that season, had an 81% completion percent.
Oregon was undefeated in the regular season.
Ridiculous number. And then the other one,
Cam Ward didn't deserve to be there. That's my opinion.
Your opinion is Cam Ward didn't deserve to go to the Heisman draft. And he was the number 1 pick in the draft, mind you.
It's the best, most outstanding college football player that year.
Okay, so now
Cam Scadaboo
so now
was
that I
more
know
outstanding
that,
than Cam Ward.
So now that I know that, I think it's only fair. I think it's only fair that I bring in these other 2 guests here because I want to have them sit in here. You guys can sit down here, at least on the chair, because I want to bring you guys in on this discussion.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
Blake,
take a seat. One man. One can. Yeah, either you can both sit here, or one can sit there, or one can sit here. For those of you who don't know, who are just now joining here on the World According to Zippy series finale, on the left here is making his return for the first time since season 4, episode 11, is Dominic Pasella. How we doing? Back for the second time, and then back for the second time in 4 episodes. Technically, if you went to our episode, this would have been your 3rd.
That's true. Could have been 3rd.
Could have been your 3rd, but instead it's your 2nd. Welcome back.
This guy doesn't love it.
Flip flops in December is kind of good.
Welcome back, Joaquin Rodriguez. So here's the thing. You 2 were fans at the time, and you guys were obviously watching the game from afar. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We were both there covering the game. This guy's now voting for the award himself.
Yeah, I mean,
for you guys to hear from him at the time that if he was in the position he is now, then last year, that Cam Scadaboo should have gone to New York. Are you with the unbiased? Oh my God! Why are we zoomed in on the tone? Yo, that could not be real. That cannot air. We cannot have the zoomed in. I just now noticed this camera's panned down. We cannot have
for 2 hours. I have fun.
Incredible sports director Alan Judson is behind the 1s and 2s for us tonight. But seriously, for both of you guys, as people who were not covering the team at the time, we both were grateful to be in that position. We both were grateful to be in the building. I think we both can say that in that building, we saw Scadaboo kind of have like his almost breakout moment. He did the pose for the first time, like multiple times that day.
To the nation.
To the nation. Because obviously like 2 million people watched the game. For you 2, before you guys had covered the team, are you guys in the same camp as him that he should have at least gotten to New York?
I think he should have. At the point that we were in Arlington, correct?
Yes, like Arlington's done.
I was at the Big 12 title game, so I remember that.
You were there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Atlanta. We both went to Atlanta for the Peach Bowl, and I went to Arlington for the Big 12 title game. And I think we both agree should have been at least in the contention of top 4.
I watched that game on a plane to Detroit. Had the whole exit row to myself. What a great flight. After that, posted an Instagram story that literally said, "Consider Cam." So, I can say with pride that Cam Scadaboo should have been in New York.
Yeah, and he's specifically, and Blake, as a now Heisman voter, said that he would have taken Cam Ward off the top 4 and put Scadaboo in. Of those 4, which I think it's a hard discussion to have because Ward ended up being the number 1 pick in the draft.
If you're going to take one off the list, I think Cam Ward was the one to go. Dylan Gabriel had an undefeated regular season at Oregon. Travis Hunter and Boise and Ashton Genty from Boise State, they were in a category of their own. Those 2 were going to be there no matter what.
So it was going to be
between one of those 2 quarterbacks to go off the list. In my opinion, even though Cam Ward was the number 1 overall pick, it's the most outstanding college football player in that year. And Miami didn't even make the playoff, and they didn't even play for the ACC championship.
It's fair, and he led the country in touchdown passes.
Oregon won the Big Ten championship with Dylan Gabriel.
Ward's one going factors was he led the country in touchdown passes. He was probably the best Miami quarterback in nearly 20 years. So that was his selling point, really. But Scadaboo obviously finished 5th, we now know, because of the voting. So to that end, I think it's kind of it's cool for us now, though, as the 4 of us, we've now all covered an Arizona State season together. You 2 are going to get the experience to do that now for 3 more years, obviously, as 2 more years as students. He's obviously probably going to keep doing it until he's dead, or as long as he ever wants. As long as he wants, basically, as long as he wants to do it, he's going to do it.
He's on the ASU beat for life.
Hey, if Corvallis is calling, he might jump ship. We don't know.
I don't know if I'm going back home.
Go into the new Pac-12 after at the Peach
Bowl. Good hire by them though. They got the OC from Alabama.
Yeah, and I literally sent. I think I sent you this like offline. I sent you the video of like his speech to like that pregame crew. We've seen a lot of like new head coaches speak like to their new teams, some of which they're new-ish teams as they have to go back to their old teams to go coach in the playoff. But like it's really cool though for him because he obviously has to go back and coach the OC and be Alabama in Atlanta this week for the SEC championship. But I think it's so cool though for you because like he at least seems to bring the energy that probably similar to what Jonathan Smith maybe had, but. Obviously, he has to accomplish what Jonathan Smith did.
That is a dead name in Corvallis, Oregon.
He's a dead name in East Lansing, too.
Oh, yes, this is a Michigan State guy right here.
Oh, we know.
So, I mean, like, Oregon State literally sold his clothes at Goodwill. Like, this is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, Jonathan Smith, traitor, unfortunately, in Oregon State's eyes, like, played at Oregon State, led them to their best season in program history.
Number 12
as a quarterback when he was a player in 2001. He played with Chad Ochocinco.
Yeah.
Won the Fiesta Bowl, beat Notre Dame here in Tempe, back when the Fiesta Bowl was played at then Sun Devil Stadium.
Yeah.
But now and then as a coach, he brought Oregon State nearly into Pac-12 championship contention. And then he dipped from Michigan State. Now he got fired at Michigan State.
Terrible hire. He was put in a terrible situation in the first place, to be quite fair. But, like, he brought along Aiden Childs.
Yeah.
We thought Aiden Childs was going to be something. He was something. He was a turnover machine. That's all he did. That's all he did. Every time I turned on a Michigan State game, I'd watch for, like, 20 minutes.
What was your record this year? I forgot what your record was this year.
I believe 4-8. One conference
4-8.
win.
Okay.
With the last game at Ford Field on Black Friday that nobody attended.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is going to be a big event at Ford Field this weekend, and that's the MAC Championship, which I think I'll at least be somewhat paying attention. I don't know. Is it Toledo?
I love some action. One of my boys just committed to Toledo.
Oh, that's nice. That's great.
Shout out Dom's teammate.
Shout out Dom's teammate. Shout out the Rockets. Shout out the Rockets of Toledo. But you get a new head coach now, Pat Fitzgerald, who obviously was an icon at Northwestern, was basically considered the man at Northwestern before all the scandals that happened, basically everything that basically let him out. Some fans thought it was justified. Some fans thought it wasn't justified. There was a whole kind of controversy with his kind of exit. But this is really his first legit job since he's back, and he's now back in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack there. It was funny. I was on FaceTime with one of my friends from Michigan State tonight, and she was like, "Oh, did you hear about a new head coach?" I'm like, "Yeah, Pat Fitzgerald. Like, I saw him at the basketball game. He seems tough." And then I was like, "Wait a minute, that name sounds really familiar. Like, he's the old Northwestern guy." Mm-hmm. And I looked him up. I'm like, "Oh my God, that's the guy from the hazing scandal."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Now it's clicking." I'm like, "No wonder he was out of a job. I already thought like he was such a good coach, and why he's out of a job." Then it made sense. I'm like, yeah, I don't want this guy at Michigan State. One that looks so bad for recruiting, and this team.
So you already are not a fan of the hire.
No.
All right.
No, I think it looks bad because this team is trying to fundraise. They just started a new fundraising campaign called For Sparta. They're trying to raise $1 billion for stadium renovations, NIL, all that.
$1 billion.
$1 billion with
Whoa.
a B.
$1 billion with a B is their $1 billion fundraising campaign. They have Matt HBO.
I'm just saying ASU would love $1 billion right now.
Matt HBO is all in on Michigan State.
Yeah.
There you go.
Friend of one of my friend's family friends. Fun fact. So I'm like 2 people away from Matt HBO.
But so point is,
shout out the Suns.
Yeah. Shout out the Suns.
See, it all comes full circle.
Yeah, it all comes full circle.
Pat
but
Fitzgerald,
not a fan.
Well, because recruits, when they hear about that stuff, is a freshman really going to come to Michigan State when they hear all? Like, I'm not going to say it on air, but all the things that Pat Fitzgerald allowed to happen in his locker room, I wouldn't want to go there. I wouldn't feel comfortable going to a school if I know that's the head coach. And it looks bad for donors. If I was a booster, I wouldn't want to give money to a head coach that I know had some serious problems going on in his locker room. Like, he got fired for it, and he got fired for a reason, and I don't think he should have gone back to a Big Ten school.
But for both of you who are kind of in situations where it's rebuilding, we're in an era of college football where, and I think me and Joaquin, I think all 4 of us can say, like, the patience of fan bases in the Power 4 and their coaches is so futile and so small at this point. For you guys, are you guys in the position where, like, you can confidently say that, like, if you guys get 6 wins, get 7 wins, heck, 8 maybe, like, is there, like, a sense of, like, okay, it's a good year 1, let's see how we can build from that, it's a new signing class, that sort of thing, or are you expecting immediate success? So it's like, obviously Blake is, his fandom of a childhood is now entering a brand new conference with 9 new schools that's going to look completely different. For you, I mean, the Big Ten kind of is possibly shaping up to be a 3-4 school powerhouse league year in and year out. So, like, is it one of those things where your schools kind of have to break through in one season to feel justified of the hire, or is it like, can you at least take solace in a 6-7-ish win season? Not trying to make the joke, but, like, I'm just trying to be realistic here, because, like, it's hard for rebuilding programs to, like, at least take the legitimacy and be like, you know what, will settle with this. I mean, we're seeing it right now with Arizona State, with having fans kind of settle for an 8-4 season after last year's incredible run to the college football playoff and the expectations that were set afterwards. So for you guys, where you guys now, right now, near the basement, can you guys take solace maybe in the beginning of a rebuild, or do you guys expect immediate success?
You know, for me, I mean, Kenny, I think, is his own unique story with Arizona State. Like, everybody knows what Kenny Dillingham is capable of. Even when they went 3-9, everybody said, okay, sure, they started out bad, but this is the guy. Much like Dan Campbell with the Lions when they started out 3-13-1, everybody's like, okay, but this is still our guy. We're not going to let him go.
Right.
So I think in that case, you got to be patient. I never felt that way with Jonathan Smith. I thought he would come in, maybe get us bowl eligible. Never happened. And second year, like, I just saw how things were falling apart. I'm like, okay, 2 years deep. Somebody's got to cover this buyout. He has to go. So Pat Fitzgerald, yes, like I said, I don't support him, but I still want the program to succeed. I will be fine with a 4 or 5 win season if it means that it's building towards something. But I have to see that it's building towards something. I have to see guys coming in the transfer portal. I have to see positive signing classes. If that doesn't happen, then I'm going to be out pretty quick.
Right. But Blake, the Beavers won 2 games this year. And
the Beavers are back to being the Beavers of old. I mean, like, my childhood as an Oregon State fan was, 0-win seasons, 1-win seasons, 2-win seasons.
When was the last winless season? That's actually a good question. Do you remember?
I don't know, but they were the bottom feeders of college football. Like, they were at the bottom. And Jonathan Smith actually came in there and brought Oregon State back to national prominence. He did. He truly did. He brought them back to the glory days of when he was a player. And if the Pac-12 didn't die, this is my wholehearted opinion, if the Pac-12 didn't die, like, Oregon State would still be a top 20 team right now.
It wouldn't. I'm assuming if Jonathan Smith is still a coach at this time.
Yeah, I mean, if the Pac-12 stayed intact, Jonathan Smith
would have
stayed at Oregon State, and he would have continued to bring in talent.
I mean, and it's a fair opinion. I know, Joaquin, I think it's kind of unique kind of for both of us. We didn't necessarily grow up kind of maybe in like the college football-centric scene that maybe these two guys did. But at the same time, I think now both of us now, me obviously having covered it 2 years, same with Blake, you now having gone through your first full season, it's kind of unique kind of seeing those perspectives, especially with the limited amount of patience these fan bases have.
I mean, I grew up going to Texas Tech games. My family had season tickets my entire life until I was like 12 and started playing sports.
You love every Texas college. You love UTSA, you love UT, you love Tech.
I was in Lubbock, Texas every weekend for a home game until I was like 11. So I remember going to tailgates Friday nights, Saturdays, Sundays, coming back Sunday. So I mean, I grew up a Tech fan, so I kind of relate in the sense that, like, I know what it's like to be bad. I mean, Tech used to get like, and we used to have.
You were probably like 2 years old in 2007, probably.
You're talking about 2008?
2008, yes.
I was technically at that game, like when my Krebs made the catch. I was outside in my mom's arms when my little brother was on the field.
One of the greatest
my
games
older brother
of
was on
the century.
Field. So I mean, I've seen, like, I remember being at DKR and Patrick Mahomes went into Austin and beat UT on Thanksgiving Day. So like I've been there for like Texas Tech high moments. But I've also seen the lows where, like, Mahomes throws for 700 yards and we lose to OU and Baker Mayfield because we have no defense. So, I mean, I've seen the highs and I've seen the lows. So I definitely can relate to him in the sense of, like, following the program your whole life and seeing the highs and the lows.
But considering the job that he has this week, watching Jacob Rodriguez, watching everyone who's being considered right now for the Heisman Trophy, I would imagine that this Saturday will be fun for you, at least watching it from home. Obviously, we all hoped that Arizona State could potentially be in a position to be back in Arlington, but I know with now a sold-out AT&T Stadium and them having an opportunity to clinch a bye into the college football playoff without having the risk of the conference championship rules and the conference champions getting automatic buys, like, this has to be at least pretty fulfilling for you, maybe with your childhood family.
Oh, yeah, I mean, my dad's super excited. He's going to be in the AT&T Stadium. I was hoping ASU was playing so we could be there again. My whole family flew into Tempe for the ASU versus Tech game this year. But, I mean, yeah, I'm rooting for Tech this weekend. I'm excited to just watch football weekend. I mean, ASU's bye week is one of the best weekends of the year because I got to sit down and watch all the games that weekend. So, I mean, I love watching football, so I'm going to be watching this weekend nonstop. Same thing Sunday for NFL.
Yeah, and I think, Dom, and I know with you being a Big Ten guy, this game, at least on Saturday, seems to be... I understand, like, the complications of people saying, like, oh, it doesn't really matter, they're probably both going to get buys, yada, 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 regardless of the result. But the fact that it is Mendoza versus San, I think at least says something in how it's completely different from what the stakes were last year when the two teams played in Columbus, when me and him were down the road when ASU played BYU, and obviously that was a mind-blowing game, but we never got to see the Indiana-Ohio State game, really, because that was going on basically simultaneously. This year, we're going to get a chance to all see this game together and have a chance to really see how these two programs, who could be two new titans in the Big Ten. OSU's always been a titan, but in the case of Indiana, seeing how they could possibly have a chance to proclaim legitimacy now as an undefeated champion of a Power 5 conference.
Yeah, I mean, it was always Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Michigan, Iowa, 1 year Michigan State, Iowa, when Michigan State went to the playoff.
Yeah, number 3, number 4, yeah.
So this year it's different. I really like that it's different. Indiana is really, same as last year, but Indiana's on the come up. Shout out Signetti. He is a brilliant head coach, and Michigan State and Indiana kind of have a rivalry for the brass platoon. I don't really care. I like Indiana. They're a fun young team. I really like Mendoza. I think Indiana goes in and rolls them. Okay, maybe not rolls.
Rolls. Whoa! We're gonna rewind.
That's just coming out of my deep disdain for Ohio State. Like I don't.
That's fair. That's your
Michigan and Ohio State is the real rival. But Michigan State and Ohio State, they have a sneaky rivalry people don't really think about.
Yeah.
Michigan State doesn't even play Ohio State, which is a topic for a different day. I hate this new scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's fun. It's classic Midwest Big Ten football. You're not getting, no offense, these former Pac-12 schools coming in there, which I think just
I don't
makes
like it either, man. I wish it was all on the West Coast.
Yeah, but I was going to say, though, quickly interject on that. I just talked to him about 2008. When he first came on the show, we were basically in the midst of that glory season for Oregon State in 2023 when they were number 11, I believe, when you guys played Washington, and literally Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit calling a game in Corvallis.
They flew into the Corvallis airport on
they
a private jet. The Corvallis airport, the freaking runway is probably the size of
this
that
studio.
black curtain literally to this wall. It is a small airport.
It's a small airport, but you just brought up 2015. You were probably, maybe 9 years old, 8 years old?
9 or 10, yeah.
Yeah, so that team, I think, was probably transcendent for you because, at the time, the year prior, Ohio State wins the national championship. It's the kind of first year of the playoff. But in that second year was so interesting because, yes, your team got blown out by Alabama. We get it. Yeah. But prior to that kind of team was kind of a unique story with Mark D'Antonio and how he was a former Saban assistant. And that team must have been, as someone who was maybe trying to learn the sport, probably your family brought you up really deep into the fan base in that given year, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was interesting. I kind of found Michigan State. Michigan State didn't really find me. My parents didn't go to college, so it was kind of up to me to really pick a team. And one of my friends, he was a Michigan State fan, my best friend growing up. And that kind of just followed me. I was like, okay, go green, go white, So I remember being a big Sparty guy. And then the Rose Bowl year was actually really fun for me as well. I was a little bit younger because that was 2013.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I was driving back from Florida. And I stayed up the entire way to listen to Michigan State versus Stanford in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Because that's I still think the Rose Bowl is the best game in college football every year. I will take the Rose Bowl over the national championship every year. That sounds insane.
The national championship should be played in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. The national championship should be the Rose Bowl game.
Yes.
But unfortunately, with the whole New Year's Day thing, I like the tradition of it. Yeah.
And reminder, next year with the rotation of the bowls, and you guys will experience this, you three at least, when you guys are still covering the teams, the Rose Bowl will become a semifinal game played on either January 7th or 8th.
Yes.
Which is obviously, when it comes to the tradition of the sport, very different from what we've seen. I think January 3rd is, the latest they've ever played that game, and that's obviously the oldest bowl game in the history of the sport. So that in and of itself is going to be kind of a new reality for kind of the Rose Bowl to face, especially this year. We're going to kind of see that a little bit with potentially, and this obviously is if Ohio State wins the game, and Ohio State Alabama, and Ohio State Oklahoma. Heck, maybe a national championship rematch in the Rose Bowl. That in and of itself, I think, should be at least something fans could maybe probably be excited for on a stage where I would agree. I think that should definitely be considered to be a yearly, the place where the champion is crowned every year.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl it means a lot to college football in general. So like you said, coming up, Rose Bowl being not played on New Year's Day or that week, with the sun setting, that's just so disappointing to me because that's what college football is all about. I know there's been all these changes, NIL, conference realignment, which Blake feels passionate about. I do as well. I hate conference realignment. Mm-hmm. I really do. And I could talk about it for hours and hours, but it's not going to solve anything.
Yeah.
So the Rose Bowl is kind of the last dagger in the heart of traditional college sports.
I just wish it was still Pac-12, Big Ten, man. There's nothing. Well. There's nothing like you said, Michigan.
And it was kind of that way last year. We obviously all four of us being in Atlanta, we didn't really see. You guys might have seen the game.
It was Oregon, Ohio State.
Yeah, we didn't see the game because we were obviously posting Kenny clips and all the craziness that was happening after the game. But you two who were in the stands, you guys probably left the stadium, went home, saw the score, and were like, "Whoa." It's 24-0. It's 31-0. What's happening? I would imagine for you guys, in this kind of new era, and I'll start with you, Joaquin. It was probably a new kind of thing where it was my God, this number one team. Blake just mentioned it as someone who's now a Heisman voter, quarterback who had basically had one of the greatest careers in the history of the sport, and they're literally getting ripped apart in front of national television.
That was insane. I remember going to a restaurant with my family. My whole family went to the Peach Bowl last year. We all flew home that next day, and I remember going to a restaurant and being like, what is this score? Like, they were literally getting, like, destroyed.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith had that huge touchdown to open the game. Then he had another, like, 40-yard bomb catch. I have no
idea. 31-0, 7 minutes in the second quarter.
And it felt like Oregon had never had a chance to get back in the game. Like, there was never a chance they were going to drive and connect something to go rally up the score and get back. It just felt like, I was like, this is a blowout. I mean, this is hard to watch.
Oregon's going to be dangerous in the playoff this year, though.
Yeah, I mean,
you feel like that's why.
I just feel like Dan Lanning, like, he's been piecing this thing together. Dan Lanning, in my opinion, is a top 5 bare minimum coach in college football right now.
And for you as a voter, how has it been going back and watching all the Dante Moore tape and where he kind of fits into all of this?
Dante Moore's in contention, but there's 2 other quarterbacks in the Big Ten who are playing the championship this weekend. Yeah. So I think you got to take that into account, and one beat him head to head pretty handily. So you definitely got to take all that into account. But I'm just really interested to see conference championship weekend.
And I believe Joaquin made the trip, at least with me, to Salt Lake City. We probably I watched the Indiana-Oregon game. In my opinion, that's the best win of the season. I understand Texas A&M went on the road to Notre Dame. It's a great win. Notre Dame lost to Miami. Miami, obviously, an incredible win. Obviously, what just happened with Texas being Texas A&M is obviously in that conversation. But Indiana, with all of the stuff of the last year and a half of like, oh, they're not really legitimate, their schedule hasn't been weak, they don't feel like a legitimate powerhouse now, that was like the stomping on the table of like, we are not here to mess around, we are a legitimate program. And what you mentioned about Cignetti, like, that was the ultimate, like, of watching his reaction post-game of like, all of the relief coming off of his shoulders of like, knowing he didn't have to defend himself anymore because they had beaten a legitimate program who finally lost after a year and a half a single conference game, which is hard to believe considering now Oregon's in just their second year in the Big Ten. But I don't know if Joaquin felt the same way because I was in Salt Lake City as well watching the game. But like that was one of those things where I was just like, wow. Like that, as someone who didn't have a stake in it from a personal standpoint, I was just like, man, that's powerful. And it still stands true to this day because obviously Oregon's in the Big Ten championship game playing Ohio State if Indiana doesn't pull that victory off.
Yeah, I think it's the best win in the sport. I mean, I got to watch that game while I was not fortunate enough to make the trip to Utah. I was probably fortunate that I didn't.
No, you were very fortunate. We would agree. You were very fortunate.
We were very pleasant conditions out there, but I think it's the best one of the sport. I mean, Oregon had been a buzzsaw. Obviously, they ran into Ohio State, who won the national championship, but literally their only loss over the span of the last 2 years up until that point was against the national champion.
In the Rose Bowl.
So then you fast forward, and Indiana, like you said, they're not just beating Oregon, they're beating Oregon at Autzen. And Autzen, for those who don't know, as someone who's an
Oregonian himself right here,
it is one of the loudest stadiums in college football. Like, you have to experience it to understand it. It is deafening loud.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been to the SEC, so I am partial in that way.
Starkville's crazy. I'll say that. Starkville's crazy.
Oregon's different, and I've heard it from people who have been to the SEC and like people who cover it nationally, like Josh Pate. Like, he says Oregon is the loudest environment in college football, and that's a guy who covers the SEC almost weekly. Yeah. So it's like
that's when you know this man has the plug. He's a Heisman voter. He could potentially be on the committee someday, and he knows Josh Pate. So like
Josh Pate's the man.
So he's moving up the leaderboard. Is what we're saying. Dom, I think it's kind of like one of those things where you kind of mentioned how you're not a big fan of like the change. I'm kind of curious what he has to say as well about it as well. But I feel like, at least as someone who's like now kind of we experienced the change last year. I don't know about anyone watching at home. I play the CFP 26 video game all the time, so I see the change kind of happening all the time with like the custom bowl games and how things are kind of set up. But I agree with you on the fact that I think it will be kind of interesting though next year, when it is the Rose Bowl kind of put in that position of being played on the 7th or 8th or the 9th or the 10th or however late into the month of January it goes, and how we're kind of seeing the calendar kind of become the enemy of the sport in a way with all of the coaching changes and with all of the chaos. Today was signing day, obviously. So, it's kind of unique to kind of see how in the next couple of years, whether the format's changed, whether the calendar doesn't change, like how schools and how programs like Arizona State, like others, can be able to maybe game the system in a way.
It's just the calendar's so weird. And, everybody wants to talk about this whole Lane Kiffin situation. And, yes, you can blame Lane Kiffin for kind of being a D-bag and leaving his team and the way it went down. But at the same time, you look at this coaching carousel, he didn't really have much of a choice when it came to the timing of going to LSU. So I think that was a signifier of the fact that they need to change this calendar. I like the fact that they made it one transfer portal that opens in January. It kind of cleans things up a little, but with coaches getting fired, and then the season ending right after, but you still had the playoff, it's weird, and now the playoff is going till almost end of January, like into these guys' second semesters. Like, we have to realize these are student athletes.
Yeah.
And Joaquin and I get into debates about this all the time, that like these guys aren't technically students, like they're just athletes. But at the same time, like these guys are college students. A lot of these guys are still, whether or not they're wanting to go to the NFL, they still want a degree.
Yeah.
At least most of them, I think. I hope.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
and I would imagine, Blake, as a Heisman voter, I bet you see that all the time, because I was like watching past Heisman ceremonies. So many Heisman finalists had literally never been in New York City in their lives when they get invited. So it's like one of those things where it's not only a momentous trip because of the award, like they're students, like you mentioned. They've never been to New York City. So it's like one of those things where like they're like tourists. They're like just going and experiencing. They're not like pro athletes who are like riding in limousines and staying in like high, fancy hotels. Some of them are, but like they're all kind of just experiencing it just as like normal students, because like the Heisman Trophy is like, it's obviously a big deal, but it's not like, the NFL honors or like, like Major League Baseball with their award ceremony and the NHL and all these other professional leagues. Like, it's just like the Heisman Trophy is a big deal, but these are students in a way. So I see kind of the relatability with that. Did you kind of want to bounce off of the argument that you guys continuously have?
I mean, we have a debate. I fully agree. They're student athletes. My whole logic is just like, if ASU or any school is paying a guy $2 million to get on campus, that dude better be in the room studying this film, not be going to games, like not locked in. So I mean, I think the new NIL completely messed up the flow of what a student athlete really is. I mean, now these schools are legitimately, openly invested in you.
Right.
Like who was Arch Manning to skip film sessions because he has to go study for a final he has tomorrow? Like now there's money involved and schools are paying
Bro's
that
got
money
class,
to show
yeah.
up. I mean, it's a whole different balance of work life because now it's no longer student athletes. You're a student athlete, but this booster pulled $5 million out of his back pocket for you to perform on Saturdays. You got a little more pressure to perform now. Even right or wrong, there's financial backing behind everybody. So it's just an entirely different world of college football.
I mean, you're absolutely right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because I think it's here's the thing. Here's the thing I think ASU does a good job of with this student athlete thing. They have one of the highest graduation rates for student athletes of any school in the country. And I think that's because of how advanced ASU Online was so early on. For those who aren't familiar, ASU, I've talked with people who were some of the starters of ASU Online, and they were ahead of the curve before COVID was in the thing. I feel like we all kind of got introduced to true online school when the pandemic hit. And then everyone kind of had to advance, and I didn't know what Canvas was until 2020. But now everyone's kind of advancing upon that. ASU was already ahead of the curve on that. And so I feel like because of that, they've been able to create opportunities for students to graduate in 3 years. There's so many athletes who are still graduating ahead of time, at least here at ASU, and still getting that degree and still getting that opportunity to, Ben Coleman has dang near 3 master's degrees, and he's a super intelligent guy.
Yeah, Jeff Sims, when he came to ASU, is done with school.
But he's gotten 2 master's degrees here at ASU within 2 years while playing college football.
Right.
It's I think ASU has that set up from an academic standpoint really good, but like you said, in the SEC or other places, that may not be the case.
Yeah, it's just a matter of it used to be you're a student athlete, school comes first. Now it's a matter of if you're openly taking it's in exchange for maybe less in class, you're exchanging, okay, I'm going to be more involved this way and put more effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right or wrong, it's just the fact of the matter, just there's money given to you. If you're Arch Manning, you're getting $4 million in the University of Texas to go show up on Saturdays. You can't be missing spring ball workouts to go study.
I will make a quick point here in that I think we're done with the era of if you're a student on campus we will all have been. I think we're done with the era of seeing a D1 athlete in class with us in person.
Especially
at least
football.
for football. You
And
maybe
probably
see
men's basketball.
other players you might see them in class, but football players, especially prominent ones,
they are not.
You're not going to see them in class.
Showing
it's
up
going to
after
be
a big
all
win.
online. It's going to be all.
I mean, it depends on the player.
I don't see a world where
you don't think so?
I don't see a world where starting.
For example,
can you foresee Sam Levitt or Jordan Tyson?
Or just,
I'm not saying Sam Levitt
or just a power 4 quarterback. You foresee a power 4 quarterback ever?
I'm saying Grayson Rigdon. How about that?
I'm talking about
I agree with that. I'm saying more
power
so the
4
star
quarterbacks.
player.
Oh, okay, yeah,
star players.
I feel like it's always kind of been that way though. Was Johnny Manziel ever in somebody's math class?
You know, Johnny Manziel was infamous for never showing up to class, period. So
okay.
I think
here's the thing, before online existed, back when there were prominent players,
I get what you're
before
saying, yeah.
online school existed, USC the internet was just like becoming a thing and like phones and stuff like that.
Right.
Like online class wasn't that advanced. So like back when Reggie Bush and freaking
Matt Liner,
and then even like Miami in 2001 with Ed Reed and
Greg Olson, that
Greg
team.
Olson, team, and Ray Lewis, like
I get what you're saying in terms of like personality wise, but that's just not a world we live in when people are going to be walking to class as a starting quarterback in power.
Yeah, I mean obviously
now they just get mobbed.
Yeah.
You guys saw Scat on Saturday. He's a freaking global celebrity at this point.
Yeah, but I think the media had a lot to do with that. Like with him on the Giants, his name has gotten huge since he started
so
playing
much
in the
bigger.
NFL. I mean, it's done numbers for you.
But I mean, it's done numbers for him. But I mean, we saw it even just in this past season. You know, I mean, obviously the rumor mill is all over the place. We're all journalists, so we're not going to speculate anything. But the rumor mill of where players who are rumored to transfer can go, players that have already transferred, their experiences. I mean, a prominent example, at least for me in mind, is Miami. Miami brings in Washington State transfer Cam Ward. He already has finished school at this point. Goes on to basically have one of the best seasons a Miami quarterback has ever had. Then, after he leaves and becomes the number one pick in the draft, they bring in Carson Beck, who has, a 2-year run at Georgia. First year, incredibly well, nearly leads them back to a third straight college football playoff and a chance at a third straight title. They lose one game. They get kicked out. The next year, he throws a bunch of picks, basically kind of has an inconsistent season, gets hurt in Conference Championship Saturday when we're all busy, and, basically sets himself up for his backup to eventually become the starter. And then he goes to Miami, where, I mean, we can all say as people who cover the sport, the season was good, but it wasn't obviously great. Very kind of similar to the Georgia season, his second year. And he already was done with classes. He was kind of infamous with school. So when you're looking at other quarterbacks who could potentially go in the portal, like a Sam Levitt, like others, it's kind of interesting to see, kind of what you guys said about, are they even going to kind of show up in classes? Because, they are going to be, whatever school that kind of these high-profile players go to next, they're glorified celebrities because they're going to be everyone's going to be looking for them. So I think it's an interesting point to bring up because I think Carson Beck was basically in that exact same situation, and who knows maybe who is potentially in that situation next because there's definitely going to be at least multiple next season.
No, yeah, I mean, I think me and Blake agree in the sense of, it's the new era of college football. You're just not going to see what you used to. I think Dom's kind of on the other end of, he would like to see it.
I agree with you guys.
I would like to see it, too. I just think we're in a world that's, not feasible.
Bro wishes Sam Levitt was in his classes.
I'm just saying, yes, the Sam Levitts of the world are not going to be ever in a classroom again. But the walk-ons or lower-level scout team players, those guys still might show up to class because, they're not getting paid $2 million.
And we cover Arizona State for a living. All four of us know, with all the injuries that ASU had to deal with over the course of the season, all of the guys who maybe in July were considered third, fourth, fifth on the depth chart, who had, by the end of the year, had to become 2 deep members and become starters. We probably could name, at least, I know Blake certainly can, 6, 7, 8 different people who had to rise up the depth chart because of
Boogie Wilson.
Because of Boogie Wilson, Man Robinson. I mean, there's a long list. Raleek Brown, Derek Eusebio, long list of guys on both sides of the ball that had to just step up because of the existing circumstances.
But here's the thing too: is if we're tying this back to the academic situation, is ASU again has had very good Barrett Honors program.
Yeah,
you're in Barrett, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
is
Barrett
big brain guy.
I don't know about all that. We're working on it.
In the Barrett Honors College, but some of their star players like Keith Abney, who could potentially be going into the NFL draft this year, could find themselves within the top 5 rounds. He's in a Barrett Honors student, so I think that's part of the culture that Kenny Dillingham's established. I think it's got to start from the top down. What does your head coach set as the standard? And I think Kenny Dillingham does a good job. His number one priority is for all of his players is to be a good person. And being a good person and being a good student kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think.
And so I think that prioritization is really important if you want to have these kids that you're coaching. Most of them are not going to end up in the NFL. It's just the state of that's the reality. It whittles down. High school athletes to college athlete to professional athlete. It just goes down this triangle and dwindles and dwindles and dwindles down. So most of these guys are going to have to function like all of us and get a job and make a living and provide themselves and are not going to be making millions of dollars in the NFL.
Right.
So I think that prioritization by Kenny Dillingham is something that should be taken into account by all other head coaches because all programs are from the head coach down.
Yeah, Blake makes a good point. I mean, I've been speaking to recruits all week because signing day was today, and I've spoken to maybe 15 guys, and 14 of them all said, I'm looking to get into Barrett Honors. And
really?
That's 1,000% a product of Kenny Dillingham pushing down the players. You talk to players, what are your goals for freshman year? It'll be to work out, get stronger, and also get involved in my grades up and get into Bear Honors College. Like I've had multiple kids tell me that. So that's just good to see from Kenny and how he's instilling that from the top down.
That I was not aware of.
That's really good stuff.
That's really impressive.
Yeah. They're gonna have to do it.
Anyway, oh my god.
He does the strong.
Yeah, but I find that so fascinating because of especially the area that we live in college football, where it doesn't seem like the academics are viewed as a valued standpoint in the recruiting aspect. So the idea that someone like Kenny Dillingham, who for weeks, I mean, we were all kind of on pins and needles of what the discussion was around the coaching carousel and how crazy it was and everything like that. Not only is he obviously committed to staying, he's made that very clear. He's obviously just completed the first year of a 5-year extension, but he's trying to point out all these different aspects of ASU that maybe if anyone looks at Arizona State on paper, with the brand, with how they've branded themselves over the last 2-3 decades, with the party atmosphere and everything like that, the idea that now things like the Barrett Honors College are becoming like now a big part of like bringing guys in, whether it's 3, 4, even 5-star guys, I think that at least sets people like Dillingham apart, and those who are dedicated to the loyalty of staying at their respective programs, which is hard to find in today's sport.
I feel like this is an interesting subject. Like, I feel like the idea of ASU being a party school has kind of been reshaped. I feel like the narrative
it's not a party school. But like the reputation still exists, and that's the worst part. As a person who loves to party myself,
you do love to party. Yes,
I'll be pretty open about it. From what I've seen from the school is sickening. Michigan State, my second home, my home away from home, they know how to party. That should be like considered what ASU has the rep of. Mm-hmm. Is like that's a party school. This is not. You don't see parties in the streets in Tempe, Arizona. Michael Crow has shut that down, but it makes it a little more enticing for athletes to come because they realize, I mean, well, maybe not a little more enticing because maybe they do kind of want to party, but like they have to focus on football because there's not much else to do. So I think that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit.
But when Herm Edwards was the coach here not that long ago, who was an NFL mind, who was at places like New York and Kansas City and had so many different powerful leadership positions, I'd imagine that like the NFL model, that's like what most college programs would want to establish themselves as. It's like, we're going to establish as like the NFL model so that anyone who, you know, whether they are likely to go to the NFL or nowhere near that margin, they're going to at least have the feeling of what that program style is going to look like. At least maybe, and maybe this is just me, I don't see ASU trying to embody that culture at all.
I mean, what do you mean by that? Bill Belichick did look what's happening at UNC, so there's no guarantee that's the system.
Right, that's a great point.
Every coach is different.
Explain what you mean by like the NFL model.
Like basically, like what basically Edwards was trying to do with at least like the practice style and bringing in guys that he basically thought would fit into certain leadership roles to basically feel like an NFL locker room, when in reality you can't necessarily do that at the college level because these are, like we mentioned earlier, kids who are in class trying to stay focused on both football and their school and having a social life. So it's like one of those things that like the fact that Kenny is trying to invest in all of those other aspects while making sure that the program as a whole is knit together, it's fascinating considering how quickly that's changed and the different dynamics and leadership from just those two individuals.
The young head coach is the future. Like the young head coach that can connect with this new generation. Like I was actually getting a conversation with this person at my work today who went to Texas Tech and was back there during the Bobby Knight days when he was the basketball coach there. And Bobby Knight, like all-time basketball coach, like one of the winningest ever, but also one of the most controversial humans that has ever been known to sports. Mm-hmm. And like documentary 60 Minutes, like go watch it. This guy was an absolute crash out, and
he was.
Like, he seriously was. Mm-hmm. And like Bobby Knight's coaching style, like cannot exist in the year 2025. Like, it's almost like illegal. Like seriously,
you can't throw chairs.
So now it's like, how are you like? I mean. Like, at least, I don't think players, in my opinion, are as responsive to just getting yelled at, told what to do, and just doing it. Like, there's got to be reasoning why. Like, you got to tell them why you're yelling at them to do this.
Right.
Like, before, it was just, you got yelled at because
it's
you're
like, shut up, that's why.
Shut up and do it. But now it's like we've become more sophisticated as a society, and, like, we need reasoning why. Like, if you're telling me to do this, tell it why it's going to benefit me to do this. And like that's so now being more sophisticated and conversational and not just as yelling all the time that's what resonates with.
I think that age was a good point. Like I spoke to a recruit who's a tight end. I'm not gonna say who, and he was like, I was like, what speaks out about Jason Mond? He's like, he's not too old, but he's not too young. Like, he's just the right age. I think that speaks for a lot of recruits who just like want to be with somebody who can respect, but also feel like they can relate to in terms of just like society and the way it's going.
And to bounce off where that formula has failed, the perfect example, at least that comes to mind for me, is Urban Meyer. Like the idea that Urban Meyer was basically able to establish himself as the alpha at Utah, at Florida, at Ohio State, and basically assert himself as the guy when it comes to the coaching ranks in the sport. But the moment that he goes to the NFL in Jacksonville, it all flips down.
I think that could have been a product of like some college coaches can't go to the NFL.
I mean, that's fair, but also like kind of like that style of like you mentioned, that kind of like that Bobby Knight style of just like basically just yelling at players just because you want to. You can't do that in the NFL because you're going from 18 to 21-year-olds to grown men with families, like who are legit making a living playing the sport and are lucky to be a part of like a 350, 400 group of lucky individuals who get to play the sport and get paid to do it.
Having the experience of now covering the NFL a little bit firsthand, it's very different. Like college football and NFL are.
Why are you guys laughing? Joaquin never just looking at me.
He's like, whoa, this man's covering the NFL. That's crazy.
It's very different. Like, just you can just sense that it's more of a job in the NFL. Like it's treated more like a job.
Yeah.
From a player standpoint, like they reference it like this is my job. Like Calais Campbell was talking about today, like he was asked, like the Cardinals are 3-9, they've been eliminated from playoff contention, and he asked like, what are you guys playing for? And he's like, you're playing for your job. You're playing for a chance to play in the NFL next season. You're playing for a chance to get paid next season. Like decision makers, GMs want winners, and they want guys who help teams win games. And if you want to play football another year and have a job, and you got to go out there and perform. And, like, that's the reality of the situation.
And that's a guy who's been playing the league for, like, 15 years. Like,
that's how it's viewed. It's like, my job is to go perform and play football. And college, I feel like, I don't know if it's viewed as much. It was like they're just playing football. Like, they're just having fun. Like, having fun. Like, they're still trying to accomplish something. They got NFL aspirations. But I don't know. It's not as wired that way, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and like Kenny, his whole thing is like have more fun working harder than anybody else in the country. I love that.
Right.
And I think that's what really boosts the program is realize that you're in Tempe, Arizona. The climate, this is right. Like right now, it's 50 degrees. This is as cold as it's gonna get. And I'm freezing. I'm from the Midwest. I thought I was like gonna be fine. No, my body has adapted to the Arizona weather. But like it's still 50 degrees out. But like in the summers, you get the 90-degree weather. You get the palm trees. Like that should be attractive, and it is. And I think having.
And then it gets to like 110, and then we're all like kind of like dying a little bit.
Still, they deal with it, and I think Kenny has done a very good job at finding the right people that match his lifestyle. And I think he is himself a fun person. He did the worm in the locker room, allegedly. Might have been AI.
Allegedly. Might have been AI. We don't know. We're Texas boys, so we had to know how to deal with the heat at least to some record.
It's not as humid here. It's a different type of heat, but yeah, it's hot.
Different. Hey man, 115, dry heat or not, is 115.
This is true. Yeah. No, my girl who's lived her entire life, I think 100%, 115. Not pleasant. Not pleasant at all. We, though, being from humid conditions, I think we can. I'm more of the opinion that humid heat is worse than dry heat.
I agree with you 1,000%.
I think it's no
debate. You can't sit in the shade.
Sweating.
I don't know. Blake and I were side by side in Waco for Baylor, and I remember it being 90 degrees. I wore pants instead of shorts for that game. One of the worst decisions I've made.
We both wore pants.
We were smelling.
That was an all-time game. That was awesome.
That was a great game.
Jesus Gomez walk-off field goal.
In the Whataburger after, you and I did not smell great.
Yeah. Whataburger in Waco. Always known for being great. And I actually wanted to get you guys' opinions on this because as I'm assuming you've been to McLean. I've been to McLean. Personally, I love the stadium. I think it's basically like the equivalent of the state of Texas's version of Husky Stadium, which I know is not far from your neck of the woods. I think the comp of it being like on the Brazos River. Mm-hmm. It's not as big when it comes to capacity, but the idea that it has kind of this laid back vibe. And I'm telling you, like, growing up in 2011, 2012, when Robert Griffin III was basically the face of college football for at least a 9-8 month span, that was the place. I remember in 2015, 2016, when College Game Day went to Baylor, if they played Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma and had an opportunity to possibly, if they win that game, to go to the Big 12 Championship, maybe go to the playoff. Like, that environment at its peak is 100% one of the more underrated ones in the country.
Dude, Baylor was sweet. I would that stadium was awesome. Not to talk about East Lansing. It reminded me of East Lansing, how the river was right next to it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Spartan Stadium. It's right on the Red Cedar River.
Right.
So, I mean, I mean, not as close, but adjacent to it at least, and like the forestry around it. I don't know. Waco was sweet, but then you get in the stadium, they had like the smoke coming out, and they were all swag surfing in like the matching like Baylor t-shirts.
The yellow shirt. Yeah, you guys were on the field for the Baylor line, I'm imagining, right?
Yes.
With all the freshmen.
Yes, the Baylor line. They were all wearing the gold shirts, and then they were like swag surfing after. It was one of the coolest things I've experienced in college football.
Yeah. And the band,
bro. The band. I still have videos on my phone.
Dog. Like me and Dom are filming the game, and I'm getting up for this.
Oh god!
Literally,
we ready to pan the camera
band
here.
Is right behind you. I'm
not
like this. Dom is filming the game,
oh boy.
And the band is with their drums and their cymbals going.
So, I have the video on my phone.
Man,
I gotta pull it up. But like,
we'll put it in the edited version of the show. We'll
awesome.
put it in there.
It literally was the most surreal experience of my life. Like Blake and I were literally looking at each other like, what is going on? And the band knew it too, because I kept on looking back at them.
Our ears were ringing.
Yes, like my voice was gone because I was just trying to talk, but like, I had to scream at Blake to hear me from like 2 feet away. Not even.
I think the similar experience, I will at least say to that, was what myself, Gabby, and Justin got to experience. Friends of the program, mind you.
Friends of the program.
Who got to experience Starkville. And in a way, that scene of that fourth quarter where Reilly Brown basically, I think, ran the ball, for like 12 straight plays. I believe so. You guys, you're a writer, so I believe you probably kept track of that. Yeah, you kept track of that. You were like, all right, 3, 4, 5.
That opening drive.
Basically, that 4-minute drive at the end of the game where ASU's down, I believe it's 17-14, I think, something like that. 17-13. They drive down, run 13 straight run plays, basically. They score, they take the lead with a minute to go. And I think we're all in 3 different positions on the field. I'm back where Mississippi State's offense can score in case things happen. Justin's on the exact upper side just in case a turnover happens. And obviously we're working for 3 different outlets, so it's obviously very different. But when Blake Shapen found Brendan Thompson basically on that go route, and he starts basically outpacing Kendrick Breedlove like it's nobody's business, it felt like the ground was shaking. It felt like the entire earth just like stopped, and just the entire, because we're basically, I'm in the corner where ASU student section was, or ASU's family section was, which included Kyson Brown's family, because Kyson Brown had basically his homecoming that week, and he didn't get the opportunity to really basically play in that game. And watching that fan section basically right in front of their face have Brendan Thompson run straight streaking down with 40 seconds left, regardless of how you feel about both teams or where your fandom lies or the objectivity of it, it was an unbelievable moment to witness and just be there in the moment and just watch this program in Mississippi State, which, by the way, this year didn't have a great season, went 5-7, won just one conference game, but after what they experienced the previous year where they went 2-10, and no one thought that program was going to be saved, and Jeff Lebby was already on the hot seat. The fact that against at the time, number 12 team in the country had that kind of a moment after basically dominating the game for the most part, and then right when ASU thinks they have an opportunity to make this incredible comeback, the idea that happened, it was one of those things where I couldn't even process it. And even going into the press conference room afterwards, watching Kenny, he couldn't even process it. So it's one of those things that you guys mentioned, just the environment and how insane it was to just look around and just embrace the honest of it. Starkville, I think, is 100% in that category as well, just because of not only that one play, but just obviously the SEC environment of it all.
Shout out Starkville.
And next year, College Station.
And next year, College Station. For you 3, I bet getting to experience College Station for you.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for London as well.
For London.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, you're definitely. If any of us go, he's going to London. They're going to hopefully get the chance to. He's definitely going to London.
We're working on the budget. But you're talking about college football environments. I feel like we should all kind of mention our desired college football environments to experience. And there are 2 for me that I really want to experience. Number 1 for me is my dad grew up in State College. Yeah, I've never been to a Penn State whiteout game. And I think that tops my list.
That's one of my thoughts.
Every time
it looked this year it looked incredible.
It looks unbelievable. And then my second one is Tiger Stadium at night, dude. Tiger Stadium at night, that just looks like an actual
in the bayou.
It looks like in a daunting environment, just it looks like it's a tiger predator environment. It does not look like a place
you drive
that you want to be.
You've never driven in Baton Rouge, but when you're driving across the bridge going on the other side of Baton Rouge, I'm saying this as someone who is in a summer collegiate baseball league where Baton Rouge has has a franchise there. Driving across that bridge and you look over to the right and you see that big L and the S and the U, it just feels intimidating, even just driving by it and you see it. Like, because it's basically a 105,000 seat cauldron sitting alongside, going back to the river comparison, literally right along a bayou where the humidity, and we know this, is terrible. It's worse. It's bad in San Antonio. It's bad in Houston. It is bad in Baton Rouge. 100%.
I wanna get Joaquin and
but I want to get you guys
favorite college football or ones you want to experience.
Ones you want to experience.
I mean, I've always wanted to, like, as a fan, as a reporter. What's the
either.
It doesn't matter. I mean, like that.
I mean, you probably would have wanted to experience Baylor as a fan anyway.
You know, as much as I hate both schools, and as much as I wanted both of them to lose,
I feel like I know where this is
going to Michigan, Ohio State in the Big House, even in the shoe, either or.
Yeah.
Going to the game. That's always kind of been something that I've wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
That I've never been to a Michigan State game.
Really?
I've only been to like 2 Michigan State games for football.
Paul Bunyan.
And jumping around at Wisconsin.
Jump around.
You know, maybe like not currently because the program's in shambles.
When they're in a good.
But if they're in a good place, I would love to jump around at Wisconsin. You stole Penn State white out for me. That was going to be my number one.
I mean, I don't want to disrespect your program, but how Michigan State, they had the exact same record to end the year, but Michigan State ended its season and how Wisconsin ended its season, kind of a little different. Wisconsin beat Washington at home, beat Illinois, had kind of the upstick going. They're keeping Luke Fickell. Not trying to dog on the program by any means.
No, Michigan State is also in shambles.
Wisconsin may be in shambles right now, but the way that they finished the season and didn't quit has to at least be looked at and just be like, hey, they beat 2 teams that were on the door, possibly knocking with Michigan, with USC at the bottom, or in that mid-tier of the Big Ten.
That's another one, the Coliseum.
Coliseum?
The Coliseum, not just for loudness, but just more so aesthetic.
The aesthetic, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Penn State White House probably my top 2. The one I really want to go to is Knoxville, Tennessee. To see like a night game in Knoxville wearing the black uniforms and the crowd's going crazy.
The T opens.
I mean, Kyle Field that night was one of my favorite ones. I mean, I went to the Lone Star Showdown last year, UT at College Station last year. I got to go to that.
That must have been fun.
That was insane. 100,000 plus people in a stadium roaring to Power by Kanye West when they run out. It was insane. I mean, that's one of one also. So I mean, you know, to see that in person.
And then I've been to the Rose Bowl in like for a UCLA game. ASU UCLA in 2022.
Yeah.
Like, the bowl was like 3/4 empty. But if I could experience the Rose Bowl.
A game that Arizona State won.
Oh my gosh.
A game that Arizona State won.
The actual Rose Bowl game.
But now it means nothing, so.
Still.
I don't think it
doesn't mean nothing.
It means something. It means something.
If Notre Dame somehow gets back to the 9th spot and Notre Dame beats Oklahoma on the road and it's Notre Dame Ohio State in the Rose Bowl this year, 50 million people watch that game.
Yeah, that
100%.
Notre Dame fans travel well.
Yeah.
Because they're from everywhere.
I'm just confused. Here's the thing, though. I want to get your guys' opinion on this.
Okay.
Because, like, Notre Dame's ranking, to me, is based off of last season and brand identity.
Yes. The logo means more than the actual ranking.
Their best win is versus USC. Who's like not? I think they're barely in the top 20 right now.
But yes, USC's 16. But
and they lost their 2 other chances. They pick up big wins to A&M and Miami.
Right, but they lost combined by 4 points. But you're a Heisman voter. I want to ask you this: where does I'm being serious? Where does Jeremiah Love fit in this conversation for you? Where you're ranking? Because like, obviously he's not playing. Very similar to kind of the situation that Dante Moore's in, Diego Pavia's in. But when you're looking through what Jeremiah Love has accomplished, does what he did last year and helping that team lead to it, does that affect anything in your voting, or is it all like just, I mean, these last 10 weeks have been so dominant, but it's really, CJ Carr's played well, but his play single-handedly has kind of almost led Notre Dame to even get into the position that they're in right now.
He's been outstanding, no doubt, but like I said, I'm basing it all on this season, and it's just, in my opinion, like...
Came out too slow.
He
came out a little.
He came out too slow. You're saying
he came out a little slow, and he's had a little bit of injury problems, not like severely, but it's like
I think he's going to the NFL.
Yeah,
I think he's going to the NFL
for sure, no doubt. He could potentially be a first-round pick.
Yeah,
but in my opinion, it's like Notre Dame's schedule. Like, it hasn't been nearly as difficult as the other guys who are in contention for the Heisman.
That's fair.
Like the Diego Pavias, like the Fernando Mendozas, like the Ty Simpsons, the Julian Sayans.
Yeah, even in the back half of the season with Jacob Rodriguez in a way.
Jacob Rodriguez too, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean,
first half of the season, they played cupcakes like the first 4 weeks. But
Texas Tech's schedule has easily been harder than Notre Dame's schedule, in my opinion. Is that a bad take?
No, Notre Dame has a cupcake schedule besides
outside
their
of the two games, right? So I will say, because I want to kind of get back to kind of with your point, what you were saying. I think the Notre Dame discussion is so interesting because of what, like I mentioned right before you guys came in, what could happen if BYU and Alabama win.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is like if Notre Dame and Miami are touching come selection day, you have to put Miami. I feel like you have to put Miami.
It's ridiculous that Miami and like Notre Dame are not flip-flop right now.
I mean, but I think there's a world where Miami and Notre Dame are like on one another, on top of each other. The fact that Notre Dame could ever be in front of them when they beat them head-to-head is insane to me.
Right.
So, I'm really intrigued, equally as much what's going to happen to Notre Dame as to what's going to happen to Texas. Because I think the discussion that we've all
but yeah, they have 3 losses. Do you think Texas is still in the conference? Do you think they're still in the conversation?
I think I agree. With Blake.
They have 2 conference losses, and their other loss is to Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country and the defending national champion, undefeated this year.
And they lost. They had the ball down 1 possession in the final drive of the game. Yeah. Right.
And Arch
played terribly. Yes, he did. So like that's
they haven't passed the eye test from that standpoint, but they also have 3 top 10 wins.
Also, the A&M game's worth an eye test. They definitely passed it there. So it's
like they beat A&M. They're the only team.
Vandy.
They're the only.
A&M
blew out Vandy. We were in myself. You didn't make the trip to Ames. Actually, I was the only one who made the trip to Ames. I remember though that day was the Texas Vandy game, and I remember that game was uncompetitive from the start, which is shocking considering
Vandy
how
made like a late surge. But
made a late surge, but the game was over. The game was over. Yeah.
See, it's in a weird situation because it's like Texas beat Vandy, but Vandy has 2 losses. Texas has 3 losses, but their only losses to Ohio State. Like the committee has a lot to think about here because if Texas doesn't make the CFP, in my opinion, you will never see these big conference, non-conference games,
big
crossover games ever again.
Everyone's going to.
They lost to Florida.
But everyone's going to. He's right. Everyone's going to schedule cupcakes.
Notre Dame lost
if Texas, if you take away the other loss on Texas's schedule.
It doesn't matter.
Texas is in the playoff.
It doesn't matter.
If Texas has 2 losses instead of the number 3, they are in the playoff.
Yeah, but it doesn't change the fact that they have 3 losses. Like that's such a stupid.
Right.
If you take away a loss, okay, you do that to any team.
No, but it's different. It's different because they went out of their way to schedule that game. It's different.
And they still lost.
Yeah, but they went. They could have played Chattanooga week 1. Nobody.
Okay, that's great. But they could have beat Florida and still had 2 losses.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, but two SEC losses doesn't matter. If you're Texas, you're going to get them no matter what. The point is
that's so dumb. If you have a loss is a loss.
The point is the CFP committee came out this year and said we're going to value losses if they're hard losses, and they're not valuing it.
That's great. And they're still valuing it in the fact that they're a top 15 team.
I mean, and think about.
I agree with Blake
and you 3 are going to experience this next year because this game is going to be before the London game. I mean, obviously, we're still far away from this, but where I at least in my mind am thinking that Texas A&M is going to be a top 10 team in the AP poll when they play Arizona State and Cal Field. That's at least my thinking with how well they recruit, how well they develop, how well Mike Elko has been able to build the 2 deep already. I just don't see a world where ASU doesn't walk into a top 10 team. Yeah, I mean, it's fair. But to Joaquin's point, is it fair to say that if Arizona State's in a situation next year where they are once again a 10-2 team or a 9-3 team, is that looked at as like, oh, they went to Kyle Field and lost close?
Well, it's a way different thing because like ASU's not going to have the chance to pick up the wins UT did this season. They're not going to have a chance to play 3 top 10 teams or 5.
Maybe. I mean, who knows what Texas Tech is in that? What knows what situation Texas Tech is in?
BYU, I'm saying, but I'm just saying from the context of like.
ASU goes to Lubbock and Provo next year, which I think for both. I mean, for all 3 of you guys. I mean, you guys are going to get to experience that and see kind of where that trajectory falls if ASU wins the rest of their games. And like, obviously, this is so far projected. We have no idea what ASU is going to look like next year. But like, if those 3 games are the ones that possibly decide the season, like, what is defined as a good loss? What is defined as a bad loss? You guys are talking about it with Texas and Vanderbilt and Miami. Like, ASU could certainly be in that situation next year for those who are at least curious of what that will look like. And I mean, you guys look so happy. You guys look like you're chomping at the bit for that opportunity.
I mean, I just feel like losing to A&M is one thing. Losing to the best team in the country on the road, which is the best loss in the country, is a complete group of its own.
That's fair.
Like, that's the best loss you can possibly have, losing one possession to a team who's beat every team by a minimum of 10 points or more. So it's like
that was the closest game Ohio State played.
UT has the best loss in the country, and they're getting punished for it, which is insane.
They're not getting punished for that conference or the non-conference loss. They're getting punished for their 2 conference losses as well.
Well, that's not true because I mean Notre Dame.
What other SEC team has 2 conference
Notre
losses?
Dame losing to NIU is worth 5 times losing to Florida in games was, and
Vanderbilt's not in it.
Yeah.
No,
But
the team has two conference losses.
At the time of the loss, Vandy wasn't. It was they're top 10 in the country. They would have been in the CFP.
Yeah. If Vanderbilt wins, if Vanderbilt goes on the road to be either Texas or Alabama, they're
also 100%. Notre Dame lost to NIU.
Hey, we're doing the typical SEC hypotheticals. I've heard so many ifs in this conversation. Whatever happened has happened. They lost 3 times. It's
so fair.
One of them was to a bottom of the barrel of the SEC Florida team. They are out.
I mean, I agree. I was kind of maybe surprised.
Sorry, Blake. I can tell you're.
I was at least kind of surprised that you brought up at least. Texas,
I trust the Heisman voters. If Heisman voters, I can sleep at
night. Not a CFP voter. Maybe for a good reason.
Yeah.
In this conversation right now.
I just think we all agree if they play Chattanooga week 1, they're in the CFP, which is insane to me.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot can be found out on Saturday, and I think. A lot's going to be determined, I think, on Saturday, at least when it comes to the stakes. I didn't answer, by the way, the question that you 3 brought up about the environments that you guys at least wanted to bring up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mine, for me, I would have loved to get the opportunity to witness A&M UT, particularly back pre-like 2012, when the hate, and he might know this, when the hate was truly real. I mean, the hatred of those programs has obviously been around for forever, but the idea that the rivalry had to go away because of what you mentioned, what you hated. The whole conference realignment situation of how A&M had to leave the Big 12 because they felt like they were basically being little brothered by not only UT but by Oklahoma and by every other major program in the Big 12, and they felt like they had to go to the SEC in order to not only get the financial backing but also to get the national branding that they got. They obviously got it because their first year in the SEC they had Johnny Manziel and basically rode that to basically becoming the national brand that they are now. So it's crazy. So like the idea that now 13 years later UT has now had to force itself into the SEC because they felt they were too good for the Big 12. And now that the rivalry is back, to have the opportunity to either see that, I'd probably prefer to see it, and maybe this is just me, in College Station, because I understand that DKR is a great environment, and that stadium is, I've been at the stadium multiple times.
I've been to both. Kyle Field clears.
Kyle Field clears because of how the interpretation nationally of that fan base. That fan base, and you guys might, if you guys get the opportunity to go there next year, you'll experience it. The way that fan base is viewed nationally, of like whether people call it a cult or like the whole like yell leaders thing and all that kind of stuff, it is 100% real. It's 100% factual. Everybody's swaying back and forth and like the saw of varsity's horns and everything like that. That is all real. It's all legitimate, and everyone who lives in that city, it's been their livelihood since the moment they were born. And I think that experience, like getting the chance to experience that in that rivalry game, like I would have died to be in that environment that rivalry game was in last year. And then secondly, I would probably have to say it's probably going to be a debate between 2. It would probably have to either be Alabama and LSU at night. I think that's definitely at least that specific Alabama at LSU. I think that specific game has always been defining in the last 20 years in the history of the sport. And then another one that I feel like is probably that doesn't get talked about. It does get talked about, but I don't think maybe people bring it up enough. But we just saw it this last week. The Iron Bowl at Auburn. I think what the Iron Bowl at Auburn is, I mean, like Chris Fowler, who I think is the best play-by-play man in the sport, brought up numerous times, the rivalry in that building is probably more unique than any other rivalry in one specific building in the sport. The fact that in Tuscaloosa, there have been cool moments where Cam Newton obviously had his moment in 2011 where he went to Tuscaloosa and hadn't come back, and there have been multiple moments where the rivalry in Tuscaloosa has been great, but every single time that game is in Auburn, something crazy happens.
The kick six, man.
It doesn't have to just be the kick six.
Fourth and 31.
4th and 31 is a great example. 2021, where Bryce Young basically had to literally have to duel with a 4-7, 5-6 Auburn team again. Like the fact that Auburn continuously puts itself into a position where they're kind of always teetering. They're either a mediocre 5, 6, 7 win team or a 10, 11 win team that's on the verge of competing for a playoff spot. The fact that they're always in one of those two positions, not really in between, it makes it such great theater every single year in the odd numbered years when the game is in Jordan-Hare.
That is a great point and a great take, because honestly, like still,
because disregard the records.
It's going to be hard for this to be topped in my lifetime of just like pure awe of a moment. I was watching that Iron Bowl, the Kick Six Iron Bowl, and I was like, shoot, I was like 9 or 10. When I watched the Kick Six, and I just couldn't believe it. Like, and still watching it, it's like still gives me chills, just like from the craziness of the moment. Like Auburn was, I think, number 3. Alabama was number 1.
Yeah, winner was going to the BCS title.
Winner was going to the BCS title, and just man, dude. There goes Davis.
Yeah.
They're not going to catch.
Yeah. In fairness, I personally thought
win the
that
football
was, if you don't know, that was the last year of the BCS when Florida State and Jameis Winston won. I kind of was of the opinion that year that if Alabama won that game, I think Alabama probably would have beaten Florida State, considering that Alabama was probably the more talented team. Auburn obviously lost to Florida State, but disregarding that fact, I just thought that game gets overlooked a whole lot. The better game that was in that exact same season was the Georgia-Auburn game that year. And I don't know how much
when it
bounced off his hands, and literally Vernon Lundquist is like, oh my God, like he's like with less than a minute to go of the idea that Georgia, who I believe at the time was 7 and Auburn was 20, like the fact that game, which by the way, Deep South Louisville's rivalry is another underrated rivalry, especially in Jordan-Hare. We saw that in the week of Utah, that game basically happened, and I remember watching that on the Jumbotron, and I think Auburn got like screwed by like 2 ref calls, I think, or something like that.
Taylor
in that game.
Gagne was there.
Yeah, Taylor Gagne was there, a good friend of the program, but like that situation is like also like that place is just it. Nick Saban has talked about in College Game Day that place is haunted. I think it's Tiger Stadium is probably in that same category as well for him probably, but I've driven by Auburn too many times to like at least maybe get the opportunity to watch a game of that magnitude at night.
I just look, I'm a college football nut, and I just get nostalgic about the sport. Like I watch college football documentaries all the time, and like if you haven't seen like Trojan War, the USC documentary of the Pete Carroll days, like I get fascinated by that. Like imagine like a packed Coliseum. That just seems unreal.
Basically a pro team playing college football.
And then just like watching Cam Newton's documentary, like the Florida Gators with Tim Tebow. Like
that's a great one, by the way. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, the Florida Gator 4-part documentary. You
100% series on Netflix.
That's on Netflix. The Untold series of that. It's like a 4-part documentary of like Florida's era with Meyer, with Tebow, like, and I at least relate to it a little bit.
The midnight workouts.
Right. How do you
relate to it?
I relate to it because of Tebow, and here's why.
There you go.
Tebow, if you don't know, was homeschooled. Was raised in a completely basically Christian secular environment, separated from school, basically read his Bible every day. His dad basically told him to pray right before the night he was pulled to commit. You probably remember this story. And the fact that like when he got to Florida, he was basically worshipped by every single iconographer member of the media, other students. Like you were talking about how student athletes used to be treated back then. Like literally Tim Tebow was having to go to classes and having to like figure out how to manage literally the superstar fandom that he was experiencing as an 18-year-old when he had never been to public school in his life and never really got the experience of like having like social clubs and cliques and like girls fawning for him and like everything that he was dealing with. It was such a fascinating experience to witness, and having kind of basically like having that experience of it was unique for me as someone who was homeschooled for 9 years and seeing how his literally childhood was transformed the moment he went to Florida, and everyone's like fawning at the knees for him, but he's not going to parties, he's not drinking and like having the time of his life. He's working out, he's throwing drills, he's working out, he's throwing drills, and he's being himself, which and every other teammate was like, why is he doing this? It's crazy.
There's just so much rich history in this sport, and I'm just like, I just hope some of that doesn't get taken away, with all the changes that are happening.
He's back.
Yeah, by the way, he is back. Adam Beadle did return.
Beadle.
He did return.
Good.
By the way, if you're just joining, if you jump cutted from the start of where we began the series finale and where we ended, this man just came from a Bible study. So he literally started the episode, went to a Bible study, and now is back. So welcome back.
Thank you.
We literally have been talking nonstop CFB for like the last 45 minutes.
Longer than that.
Mostly half of it has been glazing him because he's a Heisman voter and all that kind of stuff. The other half has been kind of like tossing around like random topics, that sort of thing. So I'll toss it to you on a topic that we've now all answered. Your 2 environments in the sport that you feel like you haven't experienced yet, either as a media member or as a fan, that you would want to eventually experience at some point in your career.
Well, I think one that I'm going to get to next year is Kyle Field, and I think power like that is one of the most unbelievable walkouts in the entire country. So I'm excited to potentially get to experience that next year. Another one. I mean, Oregon has always just kind of been on my bucket list as just a fan of the Pac-12 and all the tradition that comes with Oregon football. And, it's kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Blake, but, in Eugene, it's sort of Oregon, and that's really it. And, my whole family grew up in Nebraska, and they grew up Nebraska fans. The only thing there is to do is go to Nebraska football. So, in a way,
that stadium,
I think
underrated.
Oregon is kind of like Nebraska almost, where there's just so much, like, when there's a Saturday, everybody's there, everybody's doing stuff. And so I think that's why Oregon has been good for so many years, and just because there's so much rich tradition in the school.
And Phil Knight.
And Phil Knight, yeah. When you have Phil Knight giving all the money.
Speaking of people like going, like having kind of the experience of going back to schools, I'd imagine for you, maybe getting the opportunity to go back to Lubbock next year. You weren't a part, obviously, of covering ASU 2 years ago when ASU went to Lubbock and ended up being their only of 2 losses that season before they went to the Big 12 title. I would imagine next year, with all of the stakes and all of the hype that will potentially go into that, depending on how both teams look in the offseason, I'd imagine that is probably going to be a calling card when March and the schedule comes around. Like, Chris, let's get it going. Come on, let's go home, baby. Let's go home.
There's definitely some truth to that. I mean, my whole family came here for the Tech game here, so I mean, there's a lot of excitement there. So I'm definitely going to be on that flight to Lubbock that weekend for that game.
Yeah.
As some way or another, just to report on that game, because I mean that'll be exciting. I love Lubbock Stadium. I mean, they redid it 2 years ago. Cody Campbell's just feeding money to that program. I mean,
you didn't make the trip. I don't think that
I did not make
you
the
did not.
trip.
I believe I was the only one. That
Gabby
stadium,
made that trip.
Gabby made the trip. Yes, that stadium is very unique, and also it's that whole west side, the whole west side end zone that's been completely renovated is so unique and so kind of intricate in the fact that they, like when you talk about like the program having money and the program investing, like that is the best example of it, of like the mass rider wearing like this black uniform, like this woman with, you know, like the what's the word, like the not goggles but like the
Zorro mask,
like the Zorro mask, like with the hat, riding this black horse, and it is just like thunderous applause. It is, and obviously the tortillas are gone and whatever, but like it's the environment.
What do you think about that, Joaquin?
Oh yeah, that's.
I remember throwing tortillas. I went to.
You threw a tortilla back in your day?
My senior year of high school, I went to Texas Tech versus Oregon in Lubbock. I
Whoa.
threw a tortilla. I was at that game. So I mean, I've done it a fair share of times. But I mean, I get the logic why I had to remove it. It's kind of impressive. The fans, once they announced, they kind of did a good job of not showing up. There's only a few tortillas thrown that first game. So I mean, the fans love football down there. I mean, it's exciting. It's a great stadium. Super underrated. I agree.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
No,
one of the best.
I will say, like, on the topic of just stadiums, like, this wasn't a great environment and it's not loud, but the unique stadium structure of Colorado is intriguing.
God, no. Yeah, but like.
It's like
nobody knew where to go. Nobody knew where to go, and I will air that grievance for as long as we go on. Is that we spent probably a solid 30 to 40 minutes walking around that stupid stadium. Not stupid. It's in a great area.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where to go, and nobody knew. Nobody knew where we were supposed to go, and eventually I see Blake, who already knew where he was at, having stuff all settled, and I'm like, "Oh, where did you find that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's in a little corner," and I was like. Yeah.
Never doubt this man's powers.
Man,
Never doubt.
Yeah, great, beautiful stadium. Logistically, the worst thing I've ever been to in my entire life.
It logistically is very bad, but like the look of it is very.
The look
cool.
of it is beautiful. Yeah.
Now I will imagine this. I know that I'm not going to be, and we only have a few more minutes of time here, sadly, but I know at least we're going to see, and I know we're going to talk about this potentially. New Year's Eve, I'm probably not going to be working. I'm going to be here New Year's Eve. I'm not going to be back home. I'm going home for Christmas, and I'm back here for New Year's Eve. We'll celebrate with our family, that sort of thing. But if the Sun Bowl ends up being the destination, that sort of thing, I don't know how many of you guys will be responsible, or if you guys are all going to be home, or if you guys, like, it doesn't matter to any of you all. It probably won't matter to him, but for you, for the rest of you guys, like, as someone who, like, has been to El Paso numerous times, I'm imagine he's been as well, like, I at least would love to get the experience that environment as a fan, as someone who hasn't been to a whole lot of games as a fan as much in these last few years, especially in the 2.5 years of this program. Yeah. It would definitely be, I think, a really cool experience, especially if the opponent is, who knows, an SMU, a Clemson, a Wake Forest. Like I think all three of those are probably the three likely candidates right now.
I mean, I actually went to every other year I used to go to the Sun Bowl because my family's from El Paso on my mom's side, so we'd go up to El Paso for Christmas, stay till New Year, and I'd watch the Sun Bowl every year. So I mean, I have memories of the Sun Bowl. It's a great stadium. Never really gets packed for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, but if ASU's there, I mean, if I'm in town, I definitely might as well report on it with Chris. Might as well. There's no point not to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to be wherever ASU goes, I go. That's how it works.
If they were playing on Mars, Blake would probably be there.
Put me on the rocket ship, baby.
Put me on the rocket ship. I mean, for you guys, I don't know. Like, is that kind of, regardless of whether it's in the playoff or not, are you guys like going to be paying attention? Are you guys like even considering that as an option for you too? Or
if you asked me 3 months ago, I would have been all over it. Now at this point of the season, I'm kind of
burnt out.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, okay, they're playing in the Sun Bowl. Like, I wanted to go to Jerry's World. Like last year, I saw you go. I was like, dude, you went right?
Beadle was there too, yeah.
I was like that. I was like, dude, this is the Big 12 championship. This is sweet. Like the Sun Bowl doesn't really move the needle as much. Like last year, I missed my New Year's to go to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, which was fun, but like, I don't know. I did the whole ASU thing. I want to be with my home friends this year, and I might be going to Canada, and the legal drinking age is 19.
That's a fair way to put it.
I'm only a 30-minute drive from the border, so it's kind of like a rite of passage. You turn 19, you got to go to Canada for New Year's.
That's a fair argument.
That's probably my plan this year. Unfortunately, I will be watching. I will be doing the best I can to be a reporter. But not at the game, no.
No, that's fair. I mean, Beadle, I don't know where you...
I actually went to the last, or not the last time, I went to the Sun Bowl. ASU played NC State in 2017. It was Todd Graham's last game as a head coach at ASU. They told him after the Arizona game that he wasn't going to return the next year. Didn't know we'd ensue what we ensued with Herm Edwards after that. But the stadium's cool. It really is. It's it's one of those you cross off your bucket list. Other than that, there is nothing to do in El Paso. I mean, there's just absolutely nothing there.
Joaquin getting shots.
Sorry, he's getting all the shots.
I go for my family.
It is about as plain as you get. I want to go to San Diego so bad. Man, I want to go to San Diego.
I'm right there with you, brother.
Bad.
I'm right there with you.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I
fantasize about it. Holiday Bowl, it appears, at least right now with all the projections, appears to be Arizona's destination. So at least
that's what I'm saying. I think that territorial cup game determined it. Like, ASU would have won, Holiday Bowl. And then Arizona would have gone to the Sun Bowl. That game determined that.
If Texas Tech wins the Big 12 championship, BYU USC appears to be the Alamo Bowl as of right now. Utah appears to be probably the team with. And by the way, you mentioned all the at-large teams. We have not discussed Utah in this conversation at all. It's kind of unfortunate of the situation that they've kind of been put in. At their best.
Shout out Devin Dampier, though.
Shout out Devin Dampier. And shout out Whittingham. Like, Whittingham's culture is one that continues to last even with all of the changes in the sport. So, and we saw it firsthand what it could be at its peak. Like, I think it certainly at least is a discussion for, they're going to obviously play in the Las Vegas Bowl, it appears. But, I mean, what Utah has at least done to continuously stay relevant. I mean, regardless of whether it's 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, I mean, the fact that they continue to stay relevant, I think is just amazing.
The Big 12 is gaining more and more respect. Like, you're seeing 3 teams within the top 15 right now. If Texas Tech is a lock to make the CFP, win or lose in the Big 12 championship, in my opinion. Like, I think the way the committee is looking at it right now, they're a top 4 team. And so if Texas Tech loses, they're not going to fall out of the top 12.
I'll say what Blake is trying to say because I said it earlier. The ACC is overrated. Now we're good.
Yeah, now we're good. Hey, who knows? If Duke wins the ACC championship, maybe James Madison gets a shot. Maybe UNLV gets a shot at the college football playoff. We have absolutely no clue. I mean, that's literally if Troy beats James Madison, UNLV absolutely has a chance to get in the playoff. And I think that's honestly hard to believe, considering the Mountain West Championship again is UNLV at Boise in that weather. So on the blue field. So we'll have to see how that turns out.
Another experience I'd like to see is that blue field.
That's another one that we haven't gotten to mention yet.
Potatoes.
The potatoes. Shout out the potato bowl. We only have a couple more minutes, gentlemen, and I hate to really kind of bring up the fact that this is obviously the end of an era of this show. We mentioned kind of off the top that, our Spotify Wrapped this year was kind of almost unfathomable. The idea that you guys have grown this show in a rapid way in the last just calendar year, 443% audience engagement rise from 2024 to now. Even the last 2 seasons of this show, which is kind of hard to believe. But the fact that, and I've been asked this question a lot. Is this show going to continue? Is some form of this going to continue wherever I end up, whether it's back in Houston, whether it's at a job, wherever that is? Just know that, at least in my opinion, I would love to continue doing some kind of content like this going forward. Shut up, Duolingo. But regardless of that, I am of the mindset that I think that the fact that this has been able to make an impact on not only you 4, but the literally now 83, 81, 82 different people who have been able to be on this program over the last 2.5 semesters. I mean, it's incredibly hard to believe that. And I think I've at least done good service to hopefully not just you 4, but hopefully to this incredible station that I've been able to not only be a part of for these last 3.5 years. So I hate to see the show come to an end. I hate to see an experience like this week in and week out, and I get told all the time, I don't think there's a single KASC Blaze Radio show that has as much social media engagement as we do. I don't think there's any show that has the amount of audience reach out that we do, and the fact that it's grown from not just my friends and not just the people I'm around all the time, that it's grown to even beyond that. The fact that it's, had as big of an outreach as it has, it's unbelievable. And I am just incredibly grateful for not only you four, but just the countless people who've been on this program, listened to this program, and continue to pour in. And the fact that it's really coming to an over, it's kind of emotional, I'm not going to lie.
Dude, I'm so serious. We better see you on a late night show sometime.
Yes.
That'd be so killer, dude.
Yes.
Could you imagine late night with Max Zepeda? That'd be so tough. I would actually love that.
You can call it Z's.
But then you gotta have all of us back on.
It would be like in the same format, like a couch,
basically
like something like that. But no, seriously, for you four, obviously, for my incredible girlfriend who made the appearance today, thank you guys seriously for coming out today and having the opportunity to do this. But the one last thing though I wanted to make a point of, obviously you guys probably see on the desk here, I took my graduation photos today, which is kind of a full circle moment. And here on my graduation cap, I don't know if we can get a close-up angle of this, but I have basically right here on my cap a quote from my mother that basically says, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And as someone who, grew up with autism my whole life, I've mentioned numerous times on the show, as someone who, grew up in a homeschool environment, the fact that I was in this even position, the fact that I was even able to come to a school like Cronkite and be able to enter an environment that was a complete culture shock and a complete culture change in comparison to what I experienced the 9 years prior as a homeschooled student, the fact that that lesson of, yes, you're going to struggle with, your social status, you're going to struggle with making friends, you're going to struggle with, what you can say, what you cannot say, the nonchalant thing. I mean, you guys know this. I say so much nonchalant craziness all the time. It gets me. It doesn't necessarily impact my friendships, but it makes other people necessarily look at me in a certain way to where it's like, that seems odd. That's that doesn't necessarily feel. So the fact that I've been able to be around people like you four and around incredible individuals who've been able to embrace me, embrace the authenticity that I bring, and the fact that I've been able to showcase that at least through the medium of this show has been, and the fact that you guys have all embraced it has been, truly unbelievable. And I'm very grateful for that.
We love you, Zip.
Yeah,
we're grateful for you, man. Thank you for. How many? 5 seasons?
5 seasons.
5 great seasons of the World According to Zippy.
And 63 episodes.
And whatever you do going forward, definitely wish you the best. Hopefully more content from you going forward. We're grateful to be here. Grateful to be on here twice. Joaquin, second time. Blake, this is how many times for you? 4. But yeah, no, we're always grateful to have you around. It's going to be different without you going forward for sure.
No, but I mentioned this before. I'll be obviously watching from afar, all 4 of you, and everyone who obviously has contributed to this show so many times and has done so very gallantly. And I can't wait to see what you guys do in your incredible careers. I know this guy already is accomplishing great things professionally, but I know for you 3, at least as students, I know it's the
Heisman voter rate.
We keep mentioning it, but yes. but seriously, for all of you guys who have continued to pour into this program, I sincerely thank you. I appreciate you. I'm genuinely grateful that this program has become part of your weekly routine, whether listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. And, this may be the end for now. We don't know. And I will obviously keep you up to date when it comes to that terms, but it's been incredibly grateful to be your guide over these last 5 semesters. So, on behalf of my incredible girlfriend, Kylie Ashenfleter, who has made a record 7 appearances on this program, for Adam Beadle, for Dominic Pasella, for Blake Niemann, and for Joaquin Rodriguez, my name is Max Zepeda, signing off for the final time on The World According to Zippy after 63 episodes, 81 different guests, and 5 incredible seasons. Before we sign off, here is an incredible montage of all of the incredible memories we've experienced over the last 3.5 years, and good night from Tempe.
We're more athletic than them, they're slow, they're old.